Are you ready?
Power.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J. Cal. That guy's name is DKM, that way. And we are the Alliance Guys. We're here every Thursday night to talk to you about the National Wrestling Alliance and POWERRR and USA and POWERRRTRIP and Crockett Cup and everything else. DK, my man, how are you today?
Cold.
Is it real cold in Texas right now?
Yeah, we get our second winter storm in 2 weeks, so it's like 22 outside.
It's been
that's cold for most of the nation, not just Texas.
I mean, it would be cold for us. It's been in the this morning. I woke up and it was 30 degrees outside, and it had rained, so the backyard was covered with a sheet of ice, not snow, but a sheet of ice, and that's about as close as we get to snow. At least here.
Our streets were ice. The world shut down.
Well,
of course, since I have a computer to work from home, I end up working from home.
Well, it's it could be worse. There's a lot of things else happening out there that I'm glad we're here and not there.
Well, I'm certainly glad we're not in the Ukraine, but this isn't a political show or a news show. So
we are not. And yes, this is the Alliance Guys podcast. We do this every Thursday night. We talk about NWA Power. We're just waiting for more of you to jump in here in the chat. I see Dave Scooby's in the house. I know a couple more of you are watching at home. We do appreciate you guys being here, but we really do enjoy when you guys join us in the chats. That's what helps create this community, and we do love seeing your guys' comments. Like Dave Scooby just said, hey, if you guys are on Twitter, Camille is back online at Camille_Brick. So go.
I didn't know she was offline.
I think she took a break from Twitter. I mean, you know this. Twitter can be a very toxic place.
No.
I think Twitter's more toxic than anything else out there, and I know that. Instagram can be toxic because of people. I don't know. Twitter's the worst. It's a necessary evil. It's the social media I've been on the longest. It's also the one that I'm probably the most active on. But yeah.
I say we fire them all.
Yeah, let's do it. So a lot of news in the world of wrestling today. I mean, I didn't really intend on talking about Cesaro from the WWE quietly walking away, as being reported by PW Insider and also co-reported by Fightful. Sounds like Mr. Claudio Castagnoli is a free agent. No restrictions on where he can be. DK, let me paint you a picture, and let me tell you. You tell me if this sounds awful or awesome.
Okay.
We're at the Crockett Cup Sunday night, and of course Nick Aldis is right there to get that 3 count, and somehow, some way, Mike Knox, VSK, Chelsea Green, everybody gets involved, and Matt Cardona walks away, still your world's heavyweight champion. Then the lights go out, lights come back on, and a very European Claudio Castagnoli challenges Matt Cardona for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. You in or out?
Well, I'm mixed because I love Claudio. On the other hand, it's just another example of we have to bring somebody else in to be important.
I mean, you're not wrong, but that kind of a matchup, you know, do you walk away from? Do you like, oh, you want to bring Trevor Murdoch to get his rematch? Would you rather see Trevor challenge Cardona, or would you rather see Claudio Castagnoli challenge Cardona?
I'd rather they do a good enough job of building things up so people would want to see Trevor Murdoch challenge Cardona.
You're asking for far too much, sir.
Well, yeah, and that's the problem in the wrestling world today is, you know, heaven forbid that anyone actually do anything that's not just a cheap pop or quick reaction. Or, I mean, you know, look, we all know that there are people out there who drink the Cardona Kool-Aid.
Chris, where's Chris?
That basically parrot everything he says about just being the greatest thing. And, you know, we had a conversation sort of on your Tuesday pre-podcast where it's like, oh, you know, Zack Ryder versus so-and-so. And I go, yeah. I go, the problem is it's not Zack Ryder. And you throw out Matt Cardona to the, you know, casual WWE fan. You throw out Zack Ryder to the casual WWE fan, and they're going to go, what? Who? Huh? And you throw out Matt Cardona, it's going to be nothing to them. And so people have to forget that, or people tend to forget that we talk about all these names and stars as if anybody that doesn't already know them isn't already a wrestling fan who's either going to watch the NWA or not. You know, Cardona does a great job of self-promoting, but then he does a great job of self-promoting.
Yeah.
And if he's, you know, it was kind of like with Cody. Did Cody bring some new fans to the NWA during his 40-day reign? Well, I suppose there were a few people who had saw it who hadn't before, and, you know, they've stuck around. Did the majority of people who watched, you know, All In become huge WWE fans and continue to watch and everything? No. Because they were elite fans. So
right.
The elite weren't there. They weren't. I mean, you saw that with ROH.
Yeah.
The elite left, and the elite was a different wrestling style than ROH put out. And so when they were there, all their fans came in and watched, and when they left, all their fans took off because they didn't really care about ROH style wrestling. And, you know, for sure, you know, Claudio Castagnoli is a great talent. He's a classic example of someone that the WWE totally mishandled, misbooked, missed everything. And, you know, it would be great to get him out there. You know, and then that being said, I suppose AEW will at least look at him. I suppose Impact will look at him.
They have to.
Wouldn't surprise me if New Japan looks at him. You know, and so, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about some of the Crockett Cup people. You know, it's not enough to want, and it's not enough to wish, and it's not enough to say, oh, Billy should go do X. I'm sure Billy tries to do X a lot.
Hey.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But what does Billy have to offer? And because, I mean, you can argue MLW is bigger than the NWA at this point, just as far as people who are paying attention. Probably more hardcore fans, or, you know, NWA probably has more hardcore fans than MLW, as in fans who are just really dedicated to the product. But I would think MLW probably has more people that actually watch it, which is kind of scary because it hasn't really been that good since it returned from the pandemic. And, you know, Lord knows I love me some Hammerstone. So it's I'm excited for the former Cesaro, and I would love to see him make an appearance in the NWA, but it's just not one of those things I'm anticipating. And I don't know that I want him challenging for the world title. To me, him challenging for the world title is kind of like Gangrel challenging for the world title, except for he's more current and modern. But other than that, you already know the result.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think anyone was saying after Gangrel left the WWE that, well, he should have been a world champion multiple times. I mean, Claudio Castagnoli, Cesaro, whatever you want to call him, you're right in that he's an outsider anywhere he goes, and these opportunities, I'm sure, will present themselves. But I don't think you have much to stand on with the comparison to him and Gangrel. Gangrel.
No, I'm not comparing him and Gangrel. I'm comparing the results of him and Gangrel.
Well,
in other words, I don't believe that he's going to be around. I don't believe he's going to become an NWA wrestler. And I don't believe that the result will be him winning the title unless it would just be another one of those quick hot shot things. And you know what happens? You can't hot shot too much because then you lose the audience again. So,
I mean, there is
I mean, would I pay to see money if they were here in town? Sure. Would I travel for it? No.
But what match would you travel for?
Right now, I don't think there are any. I mean, I don't know that there's any competitor out there right now that I would be so keen in seeing that it would just be like, man, I got to go see that. Honestly, I came real close to traveling to Crockett Cup just because of the junior heavyweight title.
Yeah.
But when I checked airline prices, I ain't driving it, and I checked airline prices, and that made me go, nope.
Yeah, I think he's gonna. The flight was very expensive. We, my family, we're all heading to Nashville. It wasn't cheap, even with miles. It wasn't cheap, and it gets really expensive. You know, you feel. I like to feel like this huge international wrestling aficionado because I've been to China and I've been to Atlanta and I've been to Nashville and Charlotte, and I feel like, oh, you know, I go to Tijuana all the time to watch Lucha Libre, and I feel like this world traveler. But then when you pack up a family of 5 to go to Nashville, whew, it's expensive.
I mean, I can fly out to Tampa cheaper, you know. There's, unfortunately, places that have attractions, they tend to have cheaper because there's so much competition. But there's just not a hell of a lot of competition, you know, to get to Nashville, unfortunately. And the prices were just kind of out of my range.
Our buddy Luthez says, Claudio is a good hand. A cup of coffee visit is fine with me. I expect him to return to Ring of Honor. That's the thing too, right? I mean, we still don't really know what is going to become of Ring of Honor. You know, there's a lot of people who speculated that it would be reimagined as just a super indie promotion where maybe the world champion and the champions might have contracts and the rest of the talent would kind of ebb and flow, much like the NWA. But we don't know that for certain. And there's still rumors out there that Tony Khan might buy the library, and some people, Certified Hustler, says that, you know, Tony Khan's going to buy the entire Ring of Honor organization. I mean, there's lots and lots of speculation out there. We don't know what Ring of Honor is going to be, and it's kind of interesting because for 20 years, Ring of Honor was the independent wrestling promotion in this country, and at some points was almost like the number 2 promotion in this country, and now we don't know what it's going to be come WrestleMania weekend. It could be something else entirely. As a longtime wrestling fan, DK, what are your thoughts on Ring of Honor when it comes back in just a couple of weeks?
Well, sadly, I don't know because I don't know what to expect. I tend to follow the super indie idea. I don't see why they would cut every contract, let people sign elsewhere, and then go, okay, now let's sign people to contracts again.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. You might negotiate with your current people and go, well, we need to limit you to a year, or we need to cut the cost, or something. But I don't see them. They could probably do an NWA style. Hey, we're going to have a few top people and bring other people through in a better way than the NWA does, just simply because they kind of have this established reputation.
Yeah, for sure.
And then if the rumors are true, and I'm in no way saying they are, because I do not know, if they go with the idea of they're going to become a pure wrestling style company, in other words, all their matches are going to be under pure rules, or the vast majority of them at least, then I say you got something that makes you special.
Yeah.
But Ring of Honor has always done a rather good job of at least building up people and setting them, setting them on the right path, putting a storyline in place that, makes sense as to why they're challenging for the title. I mean, when you're the Briscoe brothers and you've held the title 17,000 times, you don't need much of a story other than your former world champions.
Right.
But, with some of the others, they built them up and taken the time. And I always remember Rhett Titus and Kenny King, and they were the All Night Express, I think. And they kind of started out as a Joe tag team because they were both kind of comedy characters. And they lost a lot and stuff like that. Well, then after a couple of brutal matches where they bled and, beaten and made their opponents bleed and everything like that, suddenly they were serious, more serious tag team. And they even said it. They go, you have to take us seriously now. And they went on and, were given the World Tag Team titles. And then Kenny King, screwed them over and left for Impact. But, you got to be able to do stuff like that. And even like some of my reactions to Matt Cardona, Matt Cardona didn't have to win the title in his first match. There are ways to do things that can. I mean, there are good double disqualification things, and a match between him and Trevor Murdoch would have been a good double disqualification where they're just beating the crap out of each other by the end.
I agree.
And you don't need to leave them laying in the ring. They just fight off, as the old phrase goes.
They could have just continued to beat the crap out of each other, not stopped when the referee administered the 5 count, kept beating the crap out of each other, both bludgeoned, both beaten up, and keep fighting. Eventually the referee throws the match out because they can't control the match. I think that, to me, would have done more to help Trevor Murdoch become a bigger star and also lend credibility to the fact that Matt Cardona is this tough dude who deserves a shot at the title. I agree with you. I understand why they made Cardona champion. I do feel like it was too rushed. I feel like only having 2 matches air on TV before presenting him as the champion was a mistake. And I don't know how they could have remedied it any quicker. It just seemed like all the pieces were there, that was the moment to pull the trigger. I just wish they would have done a better job building that up.
Well,
by the way, real quick, because I've had it on the screen for a minute, What Would Luthez Do says NWA Ring of Honor rolls off the tongue real nice.
Yeah, actually, that wouldn't. If there could ever be a legitimate merger, I mean, look, nobody's going to buy Ring of Honor and keep Ring of Honor, even if they do for a year. At some point, it's going to get absorbed into whatever they buy.
Yeah.
If it's another wrestling promotion, let me make that clear. And so, yeah, don't know how to explain it. It's not a. We're going to have to see what they are. We'll have to see what they become, and we'll have to see if it gets over. I mean, there's a chance that they'll come back and do stupid things, and we'll all be going. I mean, because again, up until the pandemic, after the elite left, they were actually not that good. And after the pure tournament worked in a empty arena, but when they started doing other things in the empty arena, they didn't work as well. And so I don't know. I just really don't know. And if I can be completely honest, there are things going on in this world right now that are far more important than pro wrestling, and I don't know what kind of effect that's going to have either.
That's 100% accurate. I saw someone post a meme today, and it was kind of silly, but it fit appropriately. The first normal summer we've had in 3 years, and then Russia decides to invade the Ukraine. So, I mean, that can have some repercussions up and down the board for our entertainment value, our spectacle, our fun. I mean, this is not by any stretch of the imagination a political show, but you and I both know that there could be some greater implications for what's going on over in the former Soviet Union than many of us are acknowledging right now. So,
well, I mean, just in the news today, I mean, they're talking cyber attacks and everything.
Yeah.
You know, so by cable, satellite, you know, different things can go down, can go out. I'm not expecting it we'll be back in the Stone Ages, and that'll be for 20 years. But I'm just saying, any given moment, any given time, you know,
right.
YouTube will make it us off the air. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. But we'll try to keep it. Oh, what would Luthez do? Wants to bring it back around just to keep it NWA. Sam Muchnik, I can never say his name right. Muchnik was born in the Ukraine. So there it is. It ties all back to the NWA. And we will focus more on the NWA, but this is kind of
that's 6 degrees.
Yeah, he got it in 2. But
how do we get Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, I was never good at that game, mostly because I can't remember people's names. So Kevin, I mean, Jaden,
Kevin?
I mean, DK. See, that was a joke. See, I was
sure.
So moving right along, because there was more than just that to talk about. Of course, new #1 contender. We saw that on NWA USA this weekend for a title that hasn't even been crowned yet. We have a new #1 contender in Jay Spade, and we'll talk about that matchup when we get to NWA USA. But DK, did you watch the match, and what are your feelings on Jay Spade being named the #1 contender to a title that doesn't even technically exist yet?
Okay. We have 8 guys, something like that, in a tournament. So what we do is we take all the first round losers, not the semifinalist, second round, whatever you want to call it. We take all the first round losers, or 4 of them, or whatever. So they're all 0-1 in the NWA Junior Heavyweight Division.
Yeah.
And we put them in a 4-way because Billy went far too long without some kind of gimmick match. So we had to do something. So we put them in the 4-way.
All right. I like it so far.
And then we decide, like it's a breaking announcement in the middle of the match, that this, and I'm using losers jokingly here, but these four losers, whoever manages to win in a match that's as much happenstance as it is, ring skill to win, is going to be the number one contender to a title that four other men are going to compete in a four-way match for in 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to make sense to me.
Absolutely, it is.
And so, look, I have nothing against Spade. And outside of Renaro, Renaro Sal, I didn't really have anything against any of the guys in this ring other than Anderson's getting too old. But four-way match, which is worse than a three-way match, I would suppose it's okay. And I mean, did the right guy win? I don't know, because there were none of them I was rooting for. I was rooting for Sal to lose, but that was about it. And so, Spade winning, number one contender. Okay, sure. I mean, that was 199% the wrong way to build somebody up to challenge for the title. But hey, we got a number one contender, and we don't even have a champion.
And just like kind of to echo the same sentiment, wouldn't like one of the challengers in that four-way make a better number one contender? Since, like you said, they advanced past the first round. I mean, let's say I know that you've said on a couple times that you were hoping Homicide wins the tournament, right?
Yeah, one time I was.
Okay. Who do you want to win now? Who do you want to win the title now?
Lockhart.
Okay. So let's say Darius Lockhart wins this thing, and having to prove himself not only in the tournament, in all those episodes of NWA USA, he wins the title, and then if I'm Colby Corino, or if I'm Austin Aries, or if I'm Homicide, wouldn't I have a better claim to be the number one contender as opposed to Jay Spade?
Well, I would think. See, here's the great way about four ways, which is what the idiots in the back are thinking when they do this. They go, look, I can have Corino or Lockhart pin the other. And knowing them, they'll probably go with Corino. I can have Corino or Lockhart pin the other. And then that way I don't have to have Aries or Homicide lose. So they're still strong. But my number one contender is going to be a guy that lost in the first round.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've really liked NWA USA for like the past 3 weeks, and 2 weeks ago a lot, and last week pretty much. But this week was a little bit sad.
I think they ran out of steam on this episode. And Kevin, you're Kevin, of course, our pal, our confidant, former junior heavyweight champion. So this is someone who speaks from authority. The NWA crowned a new number one contender on Saturday during the NWA USA program. A number one contender for the World Junior Heavyweight Championship, a title they haven't even filled the vacancy for yet. What are your thoughts, Kev? What do you think about having a number one contender without having an actual champion?
Who is the number one contender?
Jay Spade.
I didn't watch NWA USA, unfortunately. I have yet to catch an episode of it. Sorry, but it's a little weird to have a number one contender when you're going to have 4 finalists vying for the title, and how that guy should be above the other 3 guys who are in the finals for the tournament. It's kind of weird, but we're talking we're talking NWA too, where suspended disbelief is not a premium.
Hey, Kevin, because you may have missed this part. So since you didn't watch the show, what you didn't realize is that it was a fatal four-way between Sal Rinauro, Jamie Stanley, Jay Spade, and C.W. Anderson, all of whom lost in the first round of the tournament. So they took the losers from the first round of the tournament, put them in a fatal four-way, and declared halfway through the match that the winner was going to be the number one contender. So, do you have any more thoughts with that much information?
It just sounds like the same stuff we're used to seeing them do, where it's kind of like, let's just call it backyard booking. It's just really cheesy, nonsensical stuff that doesn't really make sense. And again, like I said, suspended disbelief is not at a premium with this brand, so who cares? It's kind of the attitude that they kind of have had, and like I've told you guys in the past, there are times when I can't tell if NWA is serious about their product or not, because some of the stuff borderline is comedic, which is okay. Doesn't mean that's bad. Like, there's good comedy wrestling out there, and that's part of the like Jay says all the time, there's tons of flavors of ice cream. I just don't know if the NWA has figured out which flavor they are.
20-year plan, and they still don't know exactly where they want to be. Let's just dive into NWA USA. There, we will talk a little bit more about, of course, the junior heavyweight number one contenders match. But we'll also get to the Crockett Cup tag team in a bit. But let's start with our recap review, retcon, reconsider, and all that good stuff of NWA USA. As we stated, that the announcers announced this match as a number one contenders match before the match. Let me try that again. The match had already started when Joe Galley announced that this would be a number one contenders match, four-way, a fatal four-way. It would be Jay Spade versus Jamie Stanley versus C.W. Anderson versus Sal Rinauro. And again, the show was obviously taped early because Rinauro hadn't shifted from, just frustrated Sal Rinauro to like the full-fledged James Mitchell disciple, Sal Rinauro. So again, timing issues, like we've seen him on Power under the guidance of James Mitchell, and now we're back to seeing him as this really frustrated, confused character. So again, that was kind of off-putting a little bit. The match itself was entertaining, though. Jay Spade and that dude Jamie Stanley seemed to be at ends, and then of course Rinauro and C.W. Anderson were battling on the outside. The two were squaring off, and I think that my camera just died. Do you guys see me?
Nope.
Uh-oh. What's going on here? Okay, there I am. Woo! All right.
Kevin disappeared. You went black. There's Kevin.
We're all back now.
The world came to a bitter end. Told you that.
Well, if you see me fall off, that just means that I got some lag, and so whenever it lags like that, I can't ever tell if you guys can hear me or not. So I just pop off and pop back on, and everything's back to normal.
Real quick, because Media M5 just pointed this out, and I want to hear your guys' opinion. Listen, I got to mention, since the commercial, doesn't the new Fight Sub commercial remind one of a sponsor a child for a small fee per month video? They could have made it better. Media M5, there's a lot of things the NWA could do better. You speak of that commercial, and I had messaged both DK and Kevin offline that if you guys hadn't noticed yet, the Fight pay-per-view has listed the Crockett Cup available to purchase now. You can order one night for $24.95 or both nights for $44.95 as a bundled package. And if you're doing the math, a subscription to the Fight All Access is $45. So you could order the pay-per-view and just have the pay-per-view or you could just pay for the entire year of NWA Power and get to watch that show early and the rest of the pay-per-views that are coming this year. I think they just messed up on the delivery of the pricing, I should say, anyways, for this pay-per-view. Just you priced it at $50 and the premium service is $50. That didn't make any sense to me.
Well,
I think it's kind of good. I kind of think it's a good move, to be honest, because they might see a jump up in subscriptions because of that. Because people may say, well, you know what, I'll just pay the extra $6. That's what I'm talking about. Now I'm actually considering the $50 subscription because I'm like, well, I mean, I want to watch the Crockett Cup so I can hang out with you guys. So here goes the NWA getting more of my money just because I like hanging out with you chumps.
Well,
I'm not sure you have your priorities straight, Kevin. But yeah, I mean, I think it's very much intentional that they're doing it for just that reason. And I don't think it's any coincidence that their first pay-per-view after the new pricing structure is a 2-night pay-per-view, so that they can make that comparison. Oh, look, pay $44 for these 2 shows, or pay $50 for the year. Which would you rather grab?
Yeah, no,
Yep.
I mean,
Well, it just kind of also goes to show that incremental money doesn't seem to be in vogue right now. People are more just trying to go for the front end, give me all your money now, because they don't know if the cash will be there later.
yeah, and again, not to get into too much politics, but you don't know what's around the corner. So, let's get back to the NWA USA. So again, like I said, the match was pretty entertaining. You had Renaro and Anderson squaring off on the outside. You had Spade and Jamie Stanley fighting on the inside. It just kind of was all over the place. It fell into that trope that we see so often in a 4-way match where everyone hits their finisher before someone finally hits the top finisher. And that would have been Jay Spade hitting his finish on Sal for the pin. Spade is your new #1 contender for the World Junior Heavyweight title, and Sal further falls into oblivion as he can't seem to get on the right side of the win column. DK, you saw this match. What did you think of it?
It's still earlier, I suppose, for a 4-way match. The other trope they use, of course, is somehow 2 people always manage to disappear.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've never seen people who can get knocked out so long except in multi-man matches. So somehow they can disappear so that 2 wrestlers can do a one-on-one match, so to speak, for, 3 minutes or so before somebody else comes in and interferes at the pinfall. And, I don't have anything against Spade, who won it, other than he shouldn't be the #1 contender until such time as he wins a series of matches that makes it seem like he should be the #1 contender. Kevin's had lots to say before about the fact that, why do I even have to try my best to win? All I got to do is try and get into one of their gimmick matches and come out on top.
Yeah, and Spade says, Media M5 says Spade, I've never seen, and all of a sudden he's the #1 contender. Now, he was part of the tournament, and he lost in the first round. And since we're talking about the tournament, I think I have it right here. He went down in the first round to, I can never say the name right, Aria Davari. Am I getting that right? Am I close?
Aria
Davari. So he got the victory that way, he was in the tournament. Davari got the victory, and much like what DKM was saying earlier, this was a loser's bracket who got punched into a title match, and it'll probably be on a future episode of NWA USA. But regardless, they haven't even crowned a champion yet, and now they have a #1 contender.
You know what's funny? sorry to jump in, Jay, but they could have worded this so much better, and it would have been just fine. We wouldn't have a thing to complain about if they had said the winner gets a title shot. Not number one contender, because that makes no sense. But now you have something, it's kind of like winning a lottery win. It's like, hey, winner gets a title shot. You don't have to say they're the number one contender.
You know what? That might have been what they said. Full disclosure, I don't remember.
No, they called it the number one contender.
Okay.
Yeah, but it makes more sense if it's like, all right, you know what? These four guys, you know, could have lost to the eventual champion, and for all we know, they could have been the second best wrestler in the tournament. So here's their shot to show that they belong. Winner of this match gets a title shot on NWA USA once we've crowned a champion. So simple. Then you're not running into this nonsensical stuff. But you know, you got to think a little bit to come up with this stuff.
Yeah. So that again, I mean, the match itself was kind of good. In a void, it was all right. It still wasn't. It was still a 4-way, which I think on this show we have a long-standing agreement that we're not into 4-way matches. And like I said, the conditions of the winner, but the match itself was entertaining enough. Next, we got probably my favorite segment of this week's episode, and that was the backstage segment with May Valentine, who approaches Natalia Markova while being photographed, I guess, for the NWA. And May puts Natalia in her place, like verbally. When Natalia said, "You're just jealous because I'm a real model," May fires back, "I do research for my job. I am a model. I am a journalist, and one of the biggest rock stars in the world wants me here. That's why I'm here." And I just really like the passion that May Valentine had in that promo. But it begs the question, like, or is this going to lead to a match? Or are we going to get May Valentine versus Natalia Markova in a ring at some point? Because otherwise, I don't love the announcers and wrestlers' storylines intertwining it. With all due respect to May Valentine, she's been very good on the microphone. She's been doing, I feel like, her job very, very well. If they want to make her into a wrestler, I'm all for it. But I don't want another part-time wrestler, part-time announcer, part-time managing director. I think either do one or the other. And although I enjoy the promo, I just don't see the point of it. DK, what did you think?
I mean, I'm thinking they must be heading to a match. That is the only reason it makes sense. They have actually put their hands on each other some. It's not so much like with, 250-pound wrestlers going after the smaller announcers. Yeah, Joe Galley or Kyle Davis or whatever. So the only thing I can come up with is that it's probably going to lead to a match. Probably not a good one, but probably one nonetheless. Which, with Markova, will probably somehow, I am guessing, lead to Camille. That is 100% guessing on my part. I don't know, but they seem to be heading towards Camille and Markova, and I don't know why they're using this as a vehicle, but this seems to be the vehicle they're using.
And the weird thing about it too is we saw Markova have a series of good matches recently. This doesn't need to be gimmicked. You know what I mean? Like, they could just say, hey, Markova's on a winning streak, and guess what? She's won enough matches where we feel like she can have a competitive match with Camille. I mean, hell, they gave Taryn Terrell a title match. We'll talk about that later in the show. And as fun as of a match as it was, it really wasn't a necessity. Taryn Terrell did nothing to earn that title match. They just kind of gave it to her. So this is another example of, like, the continuity, the booking, make it make sense. This is a reason we don't need to bring May Valentine into the storyline. If you want to have a title match, you can just have the title match.
Well, let's remember, Billy kind of came up under the TNA Impact booking world. And unfortunately, a lot of times it shows.
Well, And then in more with the fix the continuity, we get Kyle Davis at the podium, turn around to face the ring, and we get Tom and Camille. And we get this revisionist history where they start talking about last week and how Camille got involved in the match. And Kyle's like, I think he might be misremembering what happened, because maybe I'm wrong, but I remember someone asking Camille to be out there and them saying that she had to be out there, and her really not getting involved. Even when Markova grabbed a chair, she kind of just walked away from it. It was Tim Storm who grabbed the chair, and for whatever reason, Markova punched Camille in the back of the head. So this whole revisionist history here, it just doesn't, the continuity isn't right, and it doesn't make sense. And it's like, again, this show was taped months ago. Why didn't this get worked out?
What happened is Storm brought Camille out there to be an enforcer with himself. Lord knows why. And at some point that I don't fully get, without an explanation, Camille like either tries to trip Markova or, she puts her hands on like her foot or whatever. Nothing big comes of it. But then Markova gets mad, Storm's yelling at Camille, and then I think McCarver goes out and gets the chair, but Storm takes it away from her. Camille's just walking away, Markova hits her, blah, blah, blah. The very definition of not keeping it simple, stupid. And so, again, Billy watching too much TNA booking. He claims he wants to, he's a fan of the old Mid-Atlantic Crockett style thing, but his booking is 100% TNA-ish.
Now, Kevin, as someone who's been in the ring, do you think this might have been some sort of audible and they're just trying to make it make sense? Or did something happen, do you think maybe outside that just they're rolling with it because they have no other choice? Or, what do you think?
I think it goes back to the bad editing that they've got going on. And just really I don't think they care at this point. In terms of I just don't think they care. I think that, it's just, I think y'all talk about Billy being, and again, I'm assuming that Billy's doing booking. I don't know who's booking, Jay. And maybe you do. Maybe you need to, inform me how you guys know that Billy Corgan is booking. Because in reality, I don't know that. I don't know that. So I don't like to assume that this is all just contrived by Billy's stupidity. Okay? I don't want to make that assumption. Am I making sense here?
Yeah, I got you. And the reason why we put this on Billy is because those who used to work for the NWA, who used to be involved, specifically Dave Marquez, and has said, back in the day, all the booking was Billy. Okay. They had a soundboard though, and back in the olden days when the Daves were there, Billy would be like, okay, this is what I want to do, and then there would be a discussion on how to get there, and so things would make a little bit more sense because you would have soundboards and people would discuss things, but all the booking decisions went through Billy. So I don't believe that's changed. I don't think that any of that's any different.
Well, my guess would be that, just again making a bold assumption here, which I'm not a fan of, but it helps me get a clear idea kind of maybe what might be going on. But so I would assume, without stronger personalities like the Daves, that he probably would have even more influence on the booking now than he probably did then. So my thought, this is my 2 cents on this, is, and again, I say I don't care what kind of industry you're in, whether it's, whatever you're doing, you should never base your ideas and your direction on, it would be cool if blank. You should just not do that. In fact, it should be, it makes sense to do blank. And then typically when you do that, it's cool. And so what I think, and I'm noticing is we're doing a lot of the old, like I call it backyard. It would be cool if booking and not really caring if it makes sense. It's just more, oh, this is what I want to see. This is my money, and I'm going to do it what I want. And if I don't care if it looks like crap, it doesn't really matter. You know, it just, I'm getting what I want out of the deal. Who cares if anybody thinks it looks like crap? Because I think it's cool, and that's just kind of what, and I'm going to take care of my friends, and I'm going to, you know, it seems a lot like that. And when that's the scenario, you're not really running a business. That's not really running a business. And the more we sit and talk about this kind of stuff, the more I wish and hope that one day somebody comes up with a wrestling promotional idea where they stop really working matches and working finishes, and they just start tagging time limits on these things and putting these guys in separate locker rooms and just letting them go out there and do whatever and not talk about it, not book it, not do any of the work part of it, because in reality, it's bad enough now as it's ever been, so it can't get much worse. So at least with that, we'd have a lot more fun with it and a lot more who knows what's going to happen next. My 2 cents.
Well, then that takes us to the second part of this segment with Kyle at the commentary booth, because Tim Storm comes out, and as soon as Tim Storm shows up, Camille and Tom take off, and Tim Storm is followed by Raven, and Storm accuses Raven of undermining his authority on the show, and then Storm demands that Adonis will wrestle tonight. Raven sets up a Marche Rocket match. It'll be if Marche Rocket wins the match, he'll get a title shot. And then Medusa comes out, and she announces that she's now the co-managing director of NWA USA. And the whole time I'm sitting there saying, what the fuck is going on? Because I have no idea what is happening. I feel like I'm on a bad acid trip. I don't know. I don't get it. Like, what is happening? And this is the first episode of NWA USA. I just thought, why am I even watching this anymore?
It would be cool if blank. There you go.
DK, do you have anything you want to add to that, or did I pretty much sum it up?
I mean, you summed it up, and look, we'll go back to what we've talked about. Look at what we've liked, and it's simple, and it makes sense, and it's people out there wrestling. Look at what we don't like, and it's weird angles. I don't need a 50-whatever-year-old Raven going, what about Raven? What about me? I mean, it just, and not even doing it with enthusiasm or old Raven, you know, grit. Just, I mean, he's repeating words that he used to say. What about me? What about Raven? Nobody gives a shit.
It wasn't even that good when he was doing it before. It wasn't even that good then.
I mean, I'll be the first to admit it. I enjoyed Raven in ECW. I enjoyed Raven in WCW. Hell, I even enjoyed Raven when he was in Impact. But this ain't that. And he isn't wrestling anymore. I mean, again, are we going to get Tim Storm and Raven in the ring? I mean, is that what it's building towards?
Oh, let's hope not.
Well, sure, but that's what it feels like.
Oh, no, that's why I hope not.
So then we get our non-title match, and Adonis has been refusing to defend the title. And Tim Storm said if Adonis doesn't come out and wrestle tonight, that he's going to strip him of the title. Has that ever impacted Adonis before? He gave it up before. Whatever. Anyways, we get the title match, and the opponent is Fable Jake. Now, you might remember Fable Jake from a couple weeks ago when he and his partner, Jake and Roland, took on British Invasion. Then I said, you guys are enhancement talent. They're there to take the loss. They shouldn't get a lot of offense in. They're there to get beaten up. That's what they mostly used him here for. Adonis makes short work of them. Then after that, the coach's money shows up, Marshay Rockett in tow, and they said that he's got a title match against Adonis, and if he wins that match, then he will be granted a title shot. And then he loses. So although this was Marshay Rockett's probably best match that he's had on NWA USA, maybe in the NWA period, he still came up short. Adonis still got the victory. And as all wild as this sounds, Idol, who represents Marshay Rockett as part of Idol Sports Management in conjunction with Church's money and all that other stuff, he was rooting for Adonis for most of the match. So again, this was the worst episode of NWA USA that they've had. Tell me I'm wrong, DK.
I can't. And it's just more than anything, it was less bad and more sad.
That's fair.
I mean, it didn't make sense. You didn't understand what they were doing. I guess without the tournament, they've lost focus now. I think while they had the tournament, then they had that focus and they had something they could work with. But without it, they've lost it. They've gone back to their NWA Power ways of doing things. They've been making Rockett a heel, part of a heel group, and then they're putting him in the ring in a face position. And I don't know, again, I'm going to blame Billy, but Billy seems to like heel versus heel matches, and I don't get it. Face versus face matches are hard to pull off. Heel versus heel, I don't want either one of them to win. I mean, this wasn't like back in the day where you have Freebirds versus Devastation Inc., where the Freebirds were always the cool heels, and Devastation Inc. was always the rotten heels no matter what, to where it's like, well, sure, we hate the Freebirds, but we hate Devastation Inc. more. This is, I don't particularly care about Rockett, and Adonis hasn't really done anything, so I have a hard time caring about him.
Yeah.
But who's going to win the match? And then a clean finish, so now I don't ever care, So Rockett's just been shot in the leg, he's wounded. And, what do I care? And secret out there, people, breaking news out there for you people. Not only was this stuff filmed before that last thing they had, Power Trip or whatever.
Yeah.
The titles were not originally scheduled to change hands at Power Trip, if you believe most of the stories out there. Which is part of the reason why they don't mention them on the show. Because Adonis is still out there defending, or not defending, but setting up possible challengers for him at the pay-per-view. And because that's where he was supposed to defend and lose the title. But, again, they decided that they wanted to pull the triggers early because they're idiots, and they did. And now you have this garbage. And just wait till you get to the garbage we have if we talk about the 20-minute Crockett Cup video they put out.
I didn't even put that on the schedule to talk about, but I guess we should. Kevin, did you watch the Crockett Cup seating video that they released on YouTube on Monday?
Nope. No, it's a seating video. They're seating people.
Yeah, they're basically seating for the tournament, and we have the logo here, the graphic, right? So they seated the tournament. Of course, La Rebellion was seeded number 1. Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, the Briscoe Brothers, were seeded number 2. Number 3 was the Original Kingdom, and number 4 was supposed to be the British Invasion. However, we know that it is just going to be Doug Williams and a partner to be named later because All this will be part of the main event picture of Crockett Cup Night 2. Then the rest of the tournament plays out. You can help me out here a little bit, DK. I think we go 6 and 7 are, or excuse me, number 5 would be strictly business. I think I'm looking at this thing and I can't even read it now.
That's because it's so hard to read, right?
Yeah, number 6 is Pope and Mims. And now that was a little baffling because, again, they've never even tag teamed before. So why are they being seated so high? Number 7 is Stevens and Kratos, the former tag team champions. I feel like maybe they should have been seated a little bit better than that.
But they explained it. Didn't you get the explanation?
Well, let's hear it. I guess I missed it.
Because they've had issues before as a tag team, and now Stevens is obviously crazy.
All right. Then we get Hawk Ari and the end, the end number 8, Hawk Ari number 9. So again, a pretty reasonable.
And Perro's crazy.
Yeah.
From Billy.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's not the explanation I was hoping for. Like, this is supposed to be all inclusive. Why is someone mental status indicative of where they're seated in a wrestling tournament? Then you've got, as I'm trying to look at this thing and it's super hard to read. I know you've got, I guess we're in number 10.
Yeah.
Who is number 10? The Dirty Sexy Boys, I guess. Then
you've got I had this written out at one time, but I don't anymore.
And your camera's pointing down now, so we can't see you. Oh, I guess they can't see you anyways.
Sorry.
And then we got, you guys can see the brackets regardless. We know that there is a play-in position, and that'll be the spot number 19, or excuse me, number 16. That's the final spot in the tournament. We know that the Briscoe brothers will have a tag team to be determined, which is number 15. Don't know.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there.
You stopped.
Number 11 are the Cardonas.
Yeah.
Who, according to Billy, was not a team that was supposed to be there.
Right.
That there was another team already in that spot. That they basically had to let that team go because Matt Cardona was pulling the power play because we had to have the title defended. So once again, the inmates are running the asylum, much like when Nick Aldis was there. It's not the authority figures that tell the champions they have to defend the titles and whatever. It's the champions that dictate to the company what has to be done. And so they had to get rid of hundreds of teams. And hundreds of teams have sent in applications to be part of the Crockett Cup. And they had to let one of those teams go that they had already signed so that they could put forth the Cardonas in their place. And with all of that, they were still looking through applications to see who was going to be team number 15. They couldn't move that team down to number 15 or put the Cardonas in at number 15. No, they had to replace. Apparently, Matt Cardona was so smart that he demanded his people be seated 11, and that whoever was in an 11 could not wrestle at all for the thing. Because they couldn't put them at 15, or they couldn't put the Cardonas at 15. So that is the type of power that the wrestlers yield over there.
What are the Cardonas? Who is that?
So the Cardonas are Mike Knox and VSK. Yes, the question you just asked, who are the Cardonas? The answer is we don't know. VSK showed up at POWERRRTRIP. We will probably see him in some sort of capacity over the next few weeks. but he hasn't officially had a match for the NWA. And unless you are a super big Matt Cardona fan, you probably don't know that there's an existing relationship between VSK and Matt Cardona. But then again, like, we didn't expect Mike Knox to be having a relationship with Matt Cardona, and for some reason, that's what Billy decided to do. So again, like, this whole bracketology.
BSK, I guess, is a trainee under somebody, in Impact. He's an Impact wrestler.
Childhood friends with VSK. Brian Myers, I think, is who is under his wing. And now, if you would have given me Brian Myers and Matt Cardona in this tournament, that'd have been reason to celebrate. You know, those former WWE Tag Team Champions. I look up and down this tournament bracket, and I feel very disappointed. The fact of the matter is, there's not. Make the case for me where this is the greatest, the best tag team tournament there's ever been, and I don't see it. Now, I get it. This is an NWA pay-per-view, so it's going to feature NWA talents. But you brought the Briscoe brothers in there for a reason, because you know that the Briscoe brothers are going to help draw tickets. La Rebellion seated number 1 because they're the NWA World Tag Team Champions. You brought Doug Williams into team with Nick Aldis as the British Invasion, and now we're not even getting that. This tournament is filled with missed opportunities, and I see that TBD position. Now, you know, a lot of people are speculating who that could be. Like, it's not going to be the Hardy Boys. It's not going to be the Kings of Wrestling. It's not going to be anybody who you're hoping will be there, because if it was any type of draw, they would announce it immediately so that people would order the pay-per-view or come to the show and see them.
You're giving them a lot of credit on intelligence.
Fair enough.
Hey, and can I also solve a basic math problem for people?
Yes.
People keep saying there's going to be 20 teams involved, and so far there's only 19. And so what people are doing, they go, well, there's 16 seeds, and there's going to be 4 teams going for the play-in, so that's 20. No, because one team's in both spots, so there's only 3 other teams. So I don't know. I think Billy and probably a lot of the people who are repeating it just think 20 sounds better. It's going to be 20 teams are involved. No, 19 teams so far involved. That doesn't mean they couldn't add another one or do another elimination thing. But
Kevin said 4-way.
Yeah, 4-way.
There's still that TBD spot. I mean, that could be determined by a 4-way. It could be determined by a 3-way. Hell, it could just be a playing match in another spot on the show. That's the thing. Like, this is Billy Corgan's world. We're all just living in it. You know what I mean?
Well, how about the fact that one match has already taken place?
So is that because I haven't seen anything change on the bracketology. So that's what happened?
Well, see, that's the whole thing. This is what I absolutely positively love about when you record things like this, is because you kayfabe yourself, you fool yourself. When the results were given for POWERRR, they gave us title defenses, they talked about the matches, and they said there was a match between the original Kingdom and the Fixers, which was advertised as being a first-round match for the Crockett Cup at the spot, I guess. Now, for those who do not know, the original Kingdom is signed to Impact now. They are no longer free agents. They are actually under contract with Impact along with most of the other members of Honor No More. And there's going to be Impact tapings, I guess, that same weekend, is what I've been told. So anybody out there who knows for sure, feel free to correct me. But I've been told that basically there's going to be Impact tapings that weekend. and they are not available, or Impact shows, and they are not available for that weekend. And so the way to get them out of the tournament was they had the first round match already, but it screws up their show if they say that. So even though they acknowledge that the world title had changed hands, and I don't know if they said anything about the national title or not, they might have. Yeah, they did, because they mentioned that Adonis was no longer the national champion. So even though they're acknowledging that that show took place and what the results of that show are, in order to get their seedings in and their brackets in, they ignored the fact that they also have the one first round match. So this is when I was messaging you, Jay, and saying whatever I was saying about the fact that they lost their ever blanking mind. And so stop it. I know back in the old days, they used to do angles on TV that wouldn't get shown for another week. And so, like, for all that week up to it, they played like nothing had happened yet. You know, back in the days before the internet, between the interwebs, you know, so Joe turned on Henry, but that was never brought up on the house shows that next week. Joe and Henry still teamed. But in this world, you can't do this shit anymore. And I see Jay over there, you know, in total disbelief. So, Kevin, what are your thoughts on pulling crap like that?
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of ridiculous that you think that you can get away with stuff like that. And they've already had so much problems with continuity and taping and live events and all that. So again, I just think you have to think a little more about this stuff. You have to think further out ahead. You really need to have all of your stuff together if you're going to do tapings and do things of that nature. And if you're going to have stuff happen and you're not going to say you don't want it to get out, I mean, I don't really know how that's even possible anymore, because we're going to find out about it because the people that are there are going to post it. The best thing you could do, because title changes, you can't really do anything about. But you can take matches and not say what the match is for in the time, and then come back later and dub over it with play-by-play. And, you could do something like that. You could do it with a title change, because people see the belt change hands and the guy raised the belt. But I just think the NWA needs to figure it out. I mean, they just got to keep it simple. They just make things way more complicated. And I think when we get to the episode of POWERRRTRIP, I think it is the Kentucky thing. Yeah. Isn't that right? Isn't that where they have the show? Yeah. I think when they get to that, you'll see that a simpler booking and simpler stories, even if the matches aren't that great, it's so much easier to palate. It's so much easier to follow and try to enjoy it. So I don't see why they try to make it so hard.
So Jay, what are your thoughts?
All right, so let's we talk time to time.
You got to give your thoughts, Jay.
We talk from time to time about the United Wrestling Network, and we know that Memphis, who's been at this for just over a year now, tapes monthly for an afternoon. They tape 4 weeks of television and go about their day. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood used to do the same thing. For the short time it was around, Championship Wrestling from Arizona, same thing. Championship Wrestling from Atlanta. All these promotions that Dave Marquez has been affiliated with, associated with, owned, whatever you want to say, they do monthly tapings, and it made sense. And this was during a pandemic, and this was before the pandemic. And I just can't figure out how somebody like Dave Marquez, who is not a rock star, is not getting a ton of money from Fight, can pull this off, can do monthly TV tapings, but the NWA can't. The NWA is stuck doing quarterly pay-per-views and quarterly television tapings that are connected to those pay-per-views in an effort to save money. And it hurts the product. It hurts the talent. It hurts everything involved. And I don't see why they can't just do a monthly taping. I don't understand why that doesn't make sense to the NWA, why that's not a priority for them. Hell, charge me $10 a month, but give me better content, and I'll be more than happy to pay what I'm paying for. I'm honestly, if it wasn't for the pay-per-view, I don't think I'd be a subscriber. What's the point? With that being said, this tournament is plagued from the beginning. There's so many missed opportunities, so many missed matchups. I mean, we've got Ill-Begotten in this tournament who have won exactly one match since they've been on television. A team like the Dirty Sexy Boys, that's great. They're there. Again, how many matches have they won? These aren't elite tag teams. These are just NWA tag teams. And honestly, the best match that's in the first round, I think, is a shame, because I'd rather see Hawk Ari or The End be in the next round, because, you know, I'm looking here at Doug Williams and a mystery partner get seated better than two tag teams who've been a part of the NWA since the relaunch. The Cardonas versus Pope and Mims. Damn it, Pope and Mims haven't even teamed together. That's the kind of stuff that aggravates me. I mean, Jaden Rowland and Fable Jake have done more than together as a tag team than Popes and Mims. And it's just, this is wild, man. Like, why? If you're gonna do the Crockett Cup, you should be either doing one of two things: putting on the best tag team tournament so everyone in the world will be talking about the NWA's great tag team tournament, or two, highlight your tag team the best that you can and use anybody you can to give them a rub to help elevate them, to make them look better. I don't see that in this. I see a bunch of missed opportunities. I see they pull the trigger too quickly on giving us Cardona versus Nick Aldis. They're pulling triggers too fast. They're jumping around too fast. What happened to a 20-year plan? What happened to making things make sense? Like, it's all thrown out the window, guys. This is, I don't have.
Jay, let me help you a little bit out here. I've been covering this show with you guys. It's been a while now, right? Are we at like
Almost
how long we've been doing this for like a year? And I've been watching the NWA and keeping up with it for a good year or so now. And it's never looked like a 20-year plan, so I don't believe that. Nor have they ever really tried to make it make sense. Again, like even when they had Lagana and Marquez there, they still struggled to make it make sense. So
the production was just better.
Yeah, the production was just better. It just had a little more order to it. But it still was, I'm sorry, but cheesy as hell. And again, I just think this is the identity of the person who wants to run the show. This is the identity of the kind of wrestling. Like, this is what they want to put out there. I'm convinced that this is the product they want to have out there. They're not working their way towards something, Jay. This is their identity. They're not going somewhere. To them, they're already here. Period. They think this is great. I promise you, they're over there high-fiving each other because they got 19 jabroni teams out there for this Crockett Cup. I mean, again, like, I'm not trying to be. We're all kind of down on it right now, so it's not like I'm the only one. But I'm also just trying to say, you know, you believe what people say by their actions, not by what they say. Like, you can tell me all day long that you're going to do X, Y, Z, but we've been going for a little bit now, and guys, like, have we seen any semblance of what they're saying they're trying to do? We really don't. We've seen the same thing week in and week out, and that's what we should be honest with ourselves, that's what we're going to get, regardless of what they say. You know, it's like Ric Flair. It's like Ric Flair when he gets on the microphone. He says, "Yeah, I respect you, brother." And then he gets you in the ring. He backs you to the corner, and he gives you a little baby slap to the face. Like, the actions ain't matching the words, bro. And that's what I'm. You don't respect me. You know, like, paintbrushing my face is not respecting me. I don't care what you say on the mic. So that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Hey, I'm going to read some of the comments from the chat since it's
Please.
been a bit.
I can't read them across the screen right now. I'd love to know what the peeps are saying.
So I don't really remember where we left off from last time. But you know, Dave Scooby goes, "Billy is Oprah. You get a title, you get a title, you get a title." So kind of like with the cars. Let's see here. A lot of people saying hi to each other. When is Lord Bring going to defend his NWA TV title from Willie Bone? Well, they don't really need or want him to defend the TV title because if he, seriously, because if he defends the title and he gets to that 7, Magic 7, then they got to figure out what. And by the way, there's nothing that requires them to give up title challenge for the World Championship.
And there's also
you get that opportunity, and I think look, people have said it before. Exposure. They like Tyrus going on whatever show he goes on Fox, holding the belt and things like that. They don't care about TV title anymore. It's not like when Pope held it and they were trying to make it a top thing. They're content with it on Tyrus, and they're content with Tyrus taking it on a show. And Tyrus talks about the NWA here and there, and gives it brand exposure. So for all you people who are happy with Matt Cardona being world champion because he brings exposure, I'm assuming you're happy that Tyrus is TV champion and taking the belt with them and getting exposure on Fox. I don't know that it adds one viewer to the show, but hey, he's getting exposure.
And the thing about that, real quick, let me add that caveat to it, is he can lose a match and not lose the title and have to start over the best of 7. I mean, there's easy ways to book themselves around this. They don't have to paint themselves into a corner, but it's Billy, so they'll paint themselves into a corner.
So then let's see. What would Luthez do has quite a few things here. He goes, in one breath, Billy says hundreds of teams applied for the tournament. Then he says there are 4 ill-begotten, and he doesn't know what combo will wrestle. But he doesn't like any of their chances. Well, you know what, the plan, maybe we'll get 2 ill-begotten teams in the thing, or the to be determined. Probably shouldn't say that too loud. They may actually do it. And then what will Luthez do? Okay, then one of the other teams wouldn't have been a better choice. I guess I'm referring back to the ill-begotten. Yeah. I need things to make more sense. They ain't gonna make more sense. I'm sorry. Willie Bone, Crockett Cup should focus on all the tag teams. No singles matches should be included in the event. I mean, they kind of always had a world title match. I don't have a problem with them having a world title match on there. But, I mean, Skrull versus Aldis from the last one they did was actually a pretty good match.
I would have done the world title match on night 1 so that the night 2 could have, when you crown your Crockett Cup winner, it's more of a big deal, because I don't think you should have the finals follow the World Heavyweight Championship match, and I don't think the World Heavyweight Championship match should be the main event. I think you really kind of create, again, another set of problems that you don't necessarily need. And if you want people to tune into 2 nights, you do the title match on night 1, you do the Crockett Cup finals on night 2, and now people are invested.
Well, you used to put the world champion in so that both teams would have a chance to rest before the finals. Let me see. What else do we have in here? That was really...
Real quick, I think Kevin wants to say something. Kevin, did you want to say something?
No, I agreed. I just was agreeing that if you had the world title champion, the world title match on the first night, because that might be and you had the Crockett champion on the second night, that's actually a better idea, because, again, I bet the lowest buys are going to be the first night. because there's no real winner. There's no real big deal for that. Nothing's going to get resolved that first night. And so I think it would make more sense if you had a big match on both nights so that people are encouraged to buy both nights. I'm gonna jump inside. Y'all don't you start talking about Power, because I actually watched the show or a Power Trip until I hop back on. I'll see you guys in like 5 minutes.
Got it.
All right. So what would Luthez do? Some would hold stuff back for the good of the game, and they wonder why the live crowd is dead near the end of the tapings, because they're too long. That is why. Dave Scooby, I wouldn't be surprised if Rob Terry will be Doug Williams' tag team partner. We'll get into that in just a minute. I got some people agreeing with us over some stuff we said. Medium 5, they're doing all this Cardona way too quick for hopeful money grab since Cardona's hot right now. Yeah, I guess. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puff. It is Scarneck. Oh, it's Scarneck. We didn't do our Scarneck stuff. We'll have to do it when Kevin gets back. Media 5, this was also a slap in the face to Trevor Murdoch too. Cardona all of a sudden coming in. It's all this versus Storm all over again, but at least we had more build-up. I don't even know that we had as good of build-up. More people saying hi to each other. Impact tapings are on March 18th and 19th. Some shared talent aren't available until Sunday, so that's probably so they're in the first round of the tournament. They couldn't be there on the night of the first round, which is probably why they're out.
Yeah.
I probably would have done Angle to interim and replace it with somebody else. So real quick, Jay.
Yeah.
Who would you like to see as Williams' mystery tag team partner? There have been some interesting names bandied about. Is there anybody you would like to see?
Well, I
or
mean,
would you like to hear some of the names?
I mean, let's talk about some of the names, right? Because I mean, even in our own chat, Willie Bowen brought up Rob Terry, which would be interesting. You know, if you're going to talk British Invasion, it wasn't just Magnus and Williams; it was also Rob Terry. So bringing him aboard would be, I mean, at the very least, it would be interesting. If it's the British Invasion, I think it has to be Rob Terry. If it's not the British Invasion, then of course it's whoever you want to put with Mr. Doug Williams. And so one name that I see is a glaring hole in this tournament is there's no Trevor Murdoch. As of right now, there's no match set up for him. As of right now, there's no implication that he would be involved.
Well, because he was supposed to be defending the title.
Sure, but he's not, and all this is out. So it would be an easy way to slide him in and put him in a part of the tournament. And hey, check this out. Jaden has been able to jump back on with us.
Not Jaden. Anybody but Jaden.
Hey, guys. I apologize. I'm eating because I just got done doing what I had to do. So I apologize. I'm going to be stuffing my face, but I guess that makes me a true Alliance guy.
We've all eaten on the show at some point, so
yeah.
One night, all of us together. You know, maybe this should be Alliance guys and a dinner, and we should, like plan out a, meal that we can all be eating together. But hey, outside of that, let's listen to. Here's a list of some hopeful people that probably not them, but some people have thrown out. Davey Boy Smith Jr., Harry Smith. One of the favorites I liked was Steven Regal. I liked your idea of Murdoch, since it's not really a British invasion anymore. Of course, Rob Terry has been mentioned several times because it was the British invasion. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody off the top of my head. I don't know if anybody else has heard anyone else. If you have, throw it up in the chat. So
what would Luke
I don't think it's going to be Gary Steele.
How shocked? Oh, wait a minute. How shocked would you be if Gary still rolls out, and like 3 of us will know who it is, maybe 4 of us, and that's it. Like no one else will know who the hell Gary still is. Well, who's that guy? I mean, there's a couple of guys that would still make sense. I mean, there is still wrestling going on in the UK. I mean, I look, I don't think it's going to be one of these well-known guys.
What if it's Claudio?
I would love if it was Claudio. You know, I would lose my shit. I would absolutely go crazy if it was Claudio. I'll be there in Nashville. You'll see a lot of photos on social medias at the Alliance blog, so make sure that you're staying tuned for that. But I would absolutely.
If it's Claudio, we'll know where you're sitting because everybody will go running from the smell.
Yes.
Okay.
I got it. I picked up on it.
Hey, Jaden.
Yes, DK.
Since you weren't here on earlier, and we're waiting for Kevin to come back, your thoughts on the former Cicero, Claudia Castagnoli, now out of the WWE since his contract expired, and so I mean he's somebody that everybody else on the planet forgot about, was close to an expired contract, and he is free. He can go anywhere he wants to now.
That'll be great. A great pickup for the NWA. I kind of hope he doesn't go to AEW because they'll just get lost in with all the other talent that goes there and gets lost. The formula for AEW is they appear on Dynamite, they lose to somebody, then they put about 9 or 12 matches on the Dark and the Dark Elevation, so everybody forgets about them. Since Cody's gone, they don't have to worry about losing to Cody at least. But you know, it's interesting. I hope he's legally a citizen in the United States now. I mean, he's been here long enough, but I hope, you know, he shows up somewhere that makes a big deal of him. I'd love to see him in Impact. I'd love to see him in NWA. I'd love to see him in, if Ring of Honor ever comes back, I'd like to see him in MLW, especially if they got a better booker.
Two names that I just pulled up that I'm gonna put in the chat, but I'm also gonna say them. If it happens to be from someone from the UK wrestling scene, how about Jordan Devlin or Mark Haskins or Cara Noir? You guys know any of those names? No?
Haskins, I know. What was the other one?
Jordan Devlin.
Okay, Jordan Devlin, former cruiserweight champion for WWE. I wouldn't have a problem with him, but I don't know that, you know, shortly after he won the titles when COVID started, he basically stayed in the UK at that point, or Ireland, or I can't remember which one he's from. Haskins, I know. Cara Noir, I don't.
The other name that just popped in my head is oh god, I forgot his name, but you guys will know who he is. Josh Alexander from Impact. I know he recently departed from Impact and was forced to, I guess, abandon some of his bookings because he no longer had a visa. But what if the NWA were able to bring him in, former X Division champion, former Impact champion, to be Doug Williams' tag team partner?
Since I don't watch Impact,
Doug Williams' partner should be?
Yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Kind of. Well, we're basically waiting for you, but we brought up the fact that, you know, the former Cicero's left WWE, and you know, what's Claudio's next move, and then also who do you think could be Doug Williams' partner? So, and Alexander, what's his first name right now? Jason Alexander. No, yeah, Jason's the actor. Yeah, Josh Alexander. I mean, he has a visa and come back in. I don't watch Impact, so I've seen very little of him except for on some YouTube stuff. But he seems skilled enough. He held the World Heavyweight title for, I think, 15 minutes. So,
is he the guy that wears the ear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. He's got a cool look. I've never seen him or heard him.
Hey, Kevin, what do you think about the fact that Cesaro Claudio Castagnoli is a free agent. No non-compete. His contract ran out.
What a strange thing. Like, did he want to leave?
Yeah, they offered him an extension and he turned it down. And I guess they've been trying to give him an extension, and he was just like, nah. Which, I mean, it's really hard, right? Because there was rumors that AJ Styles reportedly received $3 million to extend his contract with the WWE. Now, I'm not saying that money cures all, but I mean, for $3 million, I guess I would be okay being in the mid card of the WWE. But Claudio, maybe he wasn't offered that kind of money. Maybe he thinks he can get better at AEW, or maybe he just doesn't want to be there anymore. The WWE of old is gone, right? Like, this isn't the place necessarily where you need to be. It's not even the best paying gig anymore because AEW is paying pretty well on top of that. And then if you're working indies, you can kind of make almost as much as you were with the WWE. So it's kind of interesting, and it's kind of weird that we're in this time and space where, you know, the WWE isn't always the most desirable place to be.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Claudio, I get it. Like, I mean, maybe he just didn't like the way he was being used, and ain't no way he's getting no AJ Styles money. There's just no way. AJ Styles, I don't think they've ever used him bad yet. I mean, he's gotten really good. I mean, he's had a world title run. He's had angles with Brock Lesnar. He's had angles with Rey Mysterio. He's had a lot of good angles, and even when he's not in the main angle, his angle with Shinsuke Nakamura was really good. Even when he's not in the main angle, they still give him stuff to do. And they've never really tried to bury him. So I think they value him, at least from what I've been able to see of him. It's a little different than Claudio, where they tried to push him and he really didn't get over. I mean, he was kind of over, but not over like, you know, not like he thinks he's over.
Well, I mean, I
don't think he's going to move any. Go ahead.
I was going to say they only tried to sort of push him once as a singles wrestler. Now he and Sheamus as the bar got over, which was always weird. Which was always weird to me.
I don't know. I always thought Claudio was overrated. I still think he's overrated.
Well, you're in the minority in this group.
Well, his work isn't that great. It's not bad. I mean,
you're in the minority in this group.
I mean, that's fine, but I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about comparing, he gets talked about like he's like some kind of top guy. And when you compare his work to like top guys, his work's not just so much better than everybody else's. His promo skills are not that great. He's got a good look, and I think that's kind of where it ends.
I'll grant you the promo skills. I will not grant you his work. I find his work to be among the best. Okay, Jay, you're shaking fingers. What do you want?
No, I'm going to echo what you just said. Is he a promo machine? Hell no. Would he benefit from a guy like Paul Heyman? He absolutely would have. Paul Heyman is a guy that could have helped push him over the top. But his in-ring work, I mean, who's better? AJ? Okay, AJ is great. I don't think that Roman Reigns in-ring is better than Cesaro's. I don't think that Brock Lesnar in the ring is better than Cesaro. Yes, he's a bigger dude. Yes, he's more intimidating. I get that. He's a fighter. But his in-ring wrestling ability? I mean, I watched the Rumble. I'm pretty sure I saw Brock Lesnar back suplex Bobby Lashley onto his shoulder more than one time. Bobby Lashley's now out for a couple of months. I'm not sure that Brock Lesnar is that proficient in the ring. I think he is a name and has value that way, but I don't think he's a better worker than Cesaro.
Jay, you have any thoughts?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm done. I was about to choke on something. AJ Styles. Yeah, I was eating a quesadilla. Sorry.
Okay.
AJ Styles puts Cesaro over as one of the best workers he's ever been in the ring with. Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, whatever you want to call him, He did the same. So did CM Punk. They're considered good wrestlers, I guess. Maybe that means something, I guess. I don't know. Either way, he's a name, and the internet fans would absolutely go apeshit about it. So if he was in the NWA as part of anything, it would be something. I think the NWA it'd be a big accomplishment for the NWA, and the Smart Mark fans would jay their pants.
I mean,
we're talking about Claudio for the NWA. I mean, for NWA, he would easily be the best thing they've ever had come through there. So that I could 110% agree with. But if you're going to try to tell me that, like, he's on the same level as like AJ Styles or Daniel Bryan in terms of his work rate, he's not. And then if you're also going to turn around and say he's got more believability or star power than Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar,
that's the exact opposite of what I said.
He doesn't. But that's what I'm saying.
That's the exact opposite of what I said.
That's why
what we're saying is that he's better than them. Star power. I mean, look, Roman Reigns wasn't a star until he turned heel. How long ago it was? 500 and something days ago, to go with his Universal title. Nobody liked him. He wasn't over. It wasn't until he found the right character and they were booking him in the right way that he got over. If three of the top workers who've been in the ring with him say he's a top worker, no offense, Kevin, I'm going to believe them over him.
Well, he's also good friends with those guys too.
It doesn't matter. I mean,
that matters a lot.
Well,
that means a lot.
Here's the thing to you: things matter when you want
guys over.
Things matter when you want them to matter. They don't have to come out and say he's a top quality worker. They can come out saying, "Hey, we're good friends. We like being in the ring with him." Blah this, blah that. That's not what they say. They say he's a top wrestler. Look, if you don't think he is, that's fine. But Kevin Douglas, in and of himself, doesn't set whatever, what is a top quality worker overall.
I find it funny that DK always gets so upset when I don't agree with him, and I actually have good basis for why I don't. And it's I respect your opinion.
I have good basis for I don't.
I respect your opinion. I respect Daniel Bryan's opinion. I respect AJ Styles' opinion. But I also know that your friends are going to be the people you talk the best about, regardless. And I'm just going to tell you, like, if Cesaro was that great, the internet and everybody else would be making a huge fuss about it. He would be the biggest signing. They would be throwing millions of dollars at him, but they're not. And that's the thing. He's a good worker. He's a top-tier worker. Don't get me wrong.
It just happened. And second, this was literally breaking news before we went on. So it's not like anybody was expecting him to be announced as free. And second, if you do follow the internet, he does have an incredibly huge following, and he is extremely popular.
Right. I mean, he's a WWE guy for like half a decade. He's a world tag champ. But if we're going to compare him to like top tier, like upper third, like wrestler, like he's like great. He's he's just the uncrowned GOAT. It just doesn't. No, he's exactly what he is. He's a really good worker. He's not one of the best workers in the world. Okay, let me rephrase that.
I'll end it like this. Kevin is always entitled to be wrong.
And then he's not good on the mic.
Kevin can believe whatever he wants.
Not good on the mic.
Kevin
both won't admit that he has no star power. Where's his star? What's his star power and mic skills? Where do you rank those?
We've already told you that he's not the best on the mic. A lot of people aren't, but that doesn't make a person a star. Not. I mean, let's be honest.
Reigns,
people who are
Bryan, good. CM Punk, does he have that kind of star power?
Wait, are you not listening? I mean, I honestly think you're not listening.
But they're acting like all this stuff doesn't matter.
I'm saying that there's a combination of stuff, and that a person can be weak in one area. That doesn't mean they're not. And that's not even what you were talking about. You were getting back to his actual workability, and you were saying his workability wasn't. So screw the promos. We're agreeing on the promos. We are disagreeing on what his work rate is. We're disagreeing on how good he is in the ring.
I would just say his entertainment value in the ring is not that great. It just he
And I
really
would tell
doesn't
you you're
have that
wrong.
great of a. Is it?
In fact, I am
maybe
telling
his,
you you're wrong.
How about this? Here's what I'll give you, and I think this is what you guys are considering good work rate. Is he has good technical ability?
Hey,
Like
don't tell me
technically,
what
he's good.
don't tell me what I consider a good work rate, okay?
Well, sure. I mean, anybody can change the
I love you, brother.
definition of something.
I love you, brother. You know that, but don't tell me what I think. There's one rule in my life. Do not tell me what I think. Do not tell me how I rate things. And do not tell me what. Do not tell me.
Work rate. So work rate is subjective, not objective, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So,
now that's where we differ.
Hey,
that's where we differ.
Can I talk, or are you just going to talk over me every single time?
Go ahead.
All right. And I'm done with it at this point. So if you want to talk about it, go ahead. I got to go take care of a couple other things.
Well, I just think the fact that we think it's
there you go again talking. Are you going to let me talk or not?
I thought you said he was done. Okay, go ahead.
All no, right. I said once I say this, I will be done.
Oh, okay.
All right. I don't care if you like them or not. We're all entitled to our opinions. We're all not going to like the same things. We're all going to look differently at things. But what I'm saying is, from what I see, what I watch, do not tell me how I judge stuff. I know how I judge stuff. If you want to justify your opinion, that's fine. But don't tell me how I'm coming up with my own thoughts. I've seen this. I've been around and back more than you know. All right. You do not know everything I know when it comes to wrestling. And you do not know how much I've been in the back, who, what, when, and where. So, in my view, he is, yes, in the top third of quality workers. I think that he brings stuff out. I think he makes other people look better than they are. And I think whoever goes after, if I were him, I wouldn't go to AEW, as other people have pointed out, because he'll just get lost in there. But I think he can be a top star anywhere that he would go. From New Japan, Impact, and whatever else is out there. Hopefully not Game Changer, because I hate Game Changer. But outside of that, I think he is, honestly, Claudio versus Hammerstone. Hey, I think that would be good.
Real quick.
Yeah, I just think he's among the top.
Before we move on from this, because we still need to recap the show, I know Jaden wanted to throw in 2 more cents. I'm done talking about it. DK, I think you're done talking about it. Jaden, say your point, and then Kevin, we'll let you wrap up, and then we'll move on to the show.
I was just going to say, during the brief times that they gave Cesaro a shine, the fans did get behind him. The problem is it was consistently stop and start booking, where they'd push him and then they'd stop, and then push him and then they'd stop. Also, Eddie Kingston, who very much does not like Claudio Castagnoli, says in no edited way how he does not like him, does put over his skills too. So I'm just saying that as the second best worker in this chat.
Okay, so now DK is going to take a step away where he's got to cool off because Kevin got him all riled up. Kevin, let's finish this up.
Wait. How is this fair? So wait, I had to sit here and listen to the whole shebang, and then he says his thing, drops the mic, and walks off, and I don't even get any airtime. Okay,
Kevin,
hey, that's enough. That's enough for me.
Kevin, I'm here.
That's enough for me. Right there, that's enough for me, because I think actions speak louder than words. I sat and heard the piece. My piece is not going to get heard. You know what? I always learned. You know, you take the high road. So You know, if I don't have it really doesn't. It really, to me, when I heard that good working is a subjective thing, not an objective thing. That's like saying, Jay, in baseball, like being a good baseball player is subjective, not objective. Hey, look, I mean, there's a line where you cross and you're good. And when you pass that line, you're actually good. If you're in the middle somewhere, you're in that gray area, you may be kind of sort of good. At that point, maybe you can say it's subjective, but good is good. And I think those that wrestle and have been in the ring and have done that thing, like, you know, we know what good is. I'm not saying I nowhere in there said he wasn't good. But I don't have to sit here and tell you, like, because Daniel Bryan thinks something or because so-and-so says something, like what people say on the internet, that doesn't necessarily mean really and truly that's what they really think, nor does it really matter. For me, it just is like when I take the eyeball test and I'm watching wrestling, I want to be like I'm watching it and I want to like it because I really do want to like it when I'm watching it. He's just never done a whole lot for me. I mean, I'm talking like him and I have been in the same locker rooms together. Like I never have thought a whole lot of his work. My opinion, big deal. I mean, I don't know why it's such a hot topic, but anyway. We can definitely move on.
Well, I just wanted to say that I kind of felt like it was look, no one is going to agree with everything, and I think it was a fun little debate that you guys had there. I just, you know, it's fine, right? Everyone, like you said, we're all entitled to our opinion. But I am clipping this, and I will be putting this directly on YouTube because it was a fun little chat, and the awkwardness was great.
And it's just kind of like Daniel Bryan to me is a great example of like when you're great, when you're truly great, you just are. You just are. You just are. And there's that to me, like you're hearing me say from one wrestler to another, like Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles. When I think of just great in the ring, especially, those are the kind of guys I think of. And it's like there's definitely a difference between them, you know. And as much as they may be friends and they may be, you know, wrestlers are going to say what they're going to. How many wrestlers just come out there and say, "Oh, that guy is trash"?
I've heard it more than you think. I do want to point something out real quick. First of all, Biff Busick is out there demanding having a shot at Claudio Castagnoli. Matt Cardona has 2.1 million followers on Twitter. Cesaro has 1.8 million followers on Twitter. So in terms of popularity, he ain't far behind Matt Cardona, who's one of the hottest guys on the independents right now. And then the last thing that I'm going to say about it is I did read something today that specifically said that Danielson had told, I don't remember if it was Mike Johnson or Sean Ross Sapp or whatever it was, but he said that he literally picked Cesaro to have matches with and did everything in his power he could to help get him over with WWE management because he felt like he was a top guy. I'm paraphrasing that, but it was something along those lines. Again, to your point, Kevin, what you said is, hey, people on the internet say whatever they want to say. I don't think Danielson is a guy that's going to put somebody over like that if he doesn't genuinely believe it. But
how hard did they try to bury Daniel Bryan, especially early on in the WWE?
Oh, the whole time. But
but could they stop it?
No, they never did. I don't think they ever stopped.
No. And what about, let's say, Kofi Kingston? Like, did the WWE try to push him? Or did the fans just decide, this is our guy, this is the guy, and there's nothing you're going to do to stop it? They never did that for Cesaro, period. They just didn't.
But it was Brian Danielson, that pushed to get him in the match, that got him to that spot, that got him to, be over enough to where the fans can really get the groundswell supported. It's sometimes you just need somebody in your corner, no matter how good the crowd's behind you, to get you where you need to be. Jeff Hardy has a huge groundswell of fan support, always has, and they've given him pushes over time. But his last run there, he was more of a guy to put other guys over, and he still was incredibly over. And there are a lot of guys in the WWE that are incredibly over with the fans, but you still need somebody to champion them to get them. And I have also one more comment too. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we should piss DK off more, because who would ever thought DK become a master debater after all that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not I don't have a personal thing in it at all, but I just feel like for me, it's one of those things where it's kind of like, this is just something people always have said about Cesaro, and it's like it's been a thing that's been said for I would say for 5 years running, where everybody talks about how he's underrated, he's underpushed, he's not getting his due. We've been saying it for a long time, and to me it's just kind of like, the wrestlers that are great and the fans that really want it when they really, really want it, they speak with their dollars, and they speak. I mean, they become undeniable at some point. You just can't stop it, and that never happened for Cesaro. Does that mean he's not any good? No, he's one of the top guys in the world in terms of just yeah, he's one of the top wrestlers in the world. There's no doubt about that. I'm not saying that, but I'm also not going to sit here and say he's like Andre the Giant or something. Or Daniel Bryan, how great of a worker was Andre the Giant? Tell me about star power matters.
No, and I think where the disconnect is, and I kind of feel like you just said it, I don't feel like Claudio has the star power that Daniel Bryan was able to get while in the WWE. You're right. He does not have the same star power as Roman Reigns. He does not have the same star power as Brock Lesnar. That's for sure. Hell, he doesn't even have the same star power as Big E Langston, right? But what he had was work rate. And I think that's where we have this disconnect. I think he was really good in a ring. I think he wasn't able to get the right kind of momentum. I mean, he had crowd support, but he was never on the same scale as a Brock Lesnar, as a Goldberg, as a Rock, as a Austin, as a, no, you're absolutely right. He was not in that conversation. But I think where the disconnect is the three of us were saying, well, yeah, you're right, but he's a work rate machine. He's great in the ring. And that's where I think where we had our confusion at.
Well, and let me maybe clarify maybe a different perspective on my end, is that when I'm talking about work rate, we're not just talking about technical skill. Technically, yeah. I mean, technically, if you want to say, is he technically one of the best wrestlers in the world? Top echelon. Ring positioning, execution of moves, all that stuff. Absolutely. He's technically really, really sound. But remember that work rate also includes your ability to captivate an audience's imagination, your ability to tie that technical skill to charisma. Shawn Michaels was a great technical wrestler, but it was his pizzazz. It was the way he dressed that stuff in the ring. That's part of your work rate, because it just is. You can't separate that, and I think, again, that's something where I'm saying, if you want to say, okay, on the technical side of work rate, sure, Cesaro, now you've moved him way up the ladder. But the difference between him and Daniel Bryan is that Daniel Bryan has all that technical skill, but he also has that thing, that tangible, intangible kind of thing that I would say that sprinkle of magic. There's just that's part of your work rate. JYD maybe wasn't a great technical wrestler, but dude was a great worker. And, he could sprinkle that magic on it, throwing a great punch that looks really good is still part of your work rate, but it has nothing to do with your technical skill. So again, I think we're talking about an element of work rate, not the entire thing itself.
So you're actually using the term wrong there, Kevin, because work rate and being a good worker are different things. Work rate's a made-up term done by the internet. Work rate means great technical skills or a great wrestler. A worker, the true word of a worker, means to be able to work the crowd and make money. And I think that's where I think you're getting confused. Is he a great worker compared to work rate? Because again, it's a made up term that the internet made up. The work rate. I think actually, even before the internet, it was a Dave Meltzer word. It never existed in the back, and none of the wrestlers used to use it back in the day. But a great worker, the ability to work, means to be able to separate a mark from his money. So you might be saying he may not be able to separate a mark from his money, but inside the ring, his work rate was high. So I think it's just more of a semantics and the use of proper vernacular that's got everybody messed up.
Well, and okay, I want to just throw one more thing out there because I'm just gauging Kevin now. Because somebody like Samoa Joe, right? Samoa Joe to me is probably one of the best workers on the planet. And I would put him in the same conversation as Danielson. And I would put him in the same conversation when he was healthy as a Roman Reigns. Now, obviously, he didn't get that mega push in the WWE, but everywhere else he went, I mean, he held gold, Ring of Honor, obviously Impact Wrestling, NXT. It really seemed like the sky's the limit. How would you size Cesaro up against like somebody like Samoa Joe, who didn't have that same acclaim that you were talking about?
In terms of like, you talking about Samoa Joe in terms of his ability to maybe capture an audience's imagination kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Samoa Joe still had that thing about him. I really do think that. I would say if you were to say what held him back, I would say it would probably be less about that, but more about certain things like maybe appearance, certain elements of that. Because again, you know, all of it comes together, has to come together to create kind of like the perfect storm for a wrestler. And anybody can kind of come in and naysay, but the reality is, what did the fans say? What does history say? And that's going to tell you what's what. And, you know, I don't really even know where to go with the conversation about the work rate and all that, because like I broke in with like some of the old schoolist type people you could break in with, and that's always been part of our vernacular, and that was always how we determined it. So I mean, maybe that's just coming from, you know, different, you know, coming from the JYD tree of wrestling is where I come from, and that was we always used that, and that was always a way that we could determine like different strengths and a way we judged a wrestler's ability to work. And I never have ever separated being able to work a crowd and separated your work rate, because the two have to go hand in hand. Because if you can do technical wrestling skills but you can't work a crowd, you suck.
Brad Armstrong was called a great worker, but I can never say he could work to the crowd where he can be a big time star. And that's the whole reason that the whole word work rate has came across, is because of people like Brad Armstrong.
Brad Armstrong was not a great worker though.
See,
and when I was learning wrestling tapes and I'm learning how to be a wrestler, like that was never really the way we talked about those things, because we didn't separate a wrestler's ability to capture someone's imagination and capture kind of the audience's emotion. We didn't separate those two, because you inevitably, if you did, you were boring.
But that's just it. That's why that term was invented. It was invented because the smart mark wrestling fans wanted to be able to support the Dean Malenkos, the work rate. It was, like I said, it was a made up word. And Jazz and Rodney Mack, yes, they might have been trained by the Junkyard Dog, especially I think Rodney Mack was specifically, but they came from the 90s, and the 90s when that word was starting to proliferate its way through the business. In the 80s and the 70s, there was no such thing as work rate. You never heard Nick Bockwinkel or anybody talking about the work rate of a wrestler, but he did say the ability to draw money. And that's what working is drawing money.
Well, and I think just in reality though, you have to be honest that once that was determined as a terminology, you can go back and you can still now assess someone's work rate, even back in the 70s on to the 60s, and you can apply this term and you still get the same result. Because even though back then they may not have said back in the day that Nick Bockwinkel had good or didn't have good work rate, but we can go back now and determine whether he did or he didn't based on that. But again, it's just funny to me. You learn something new every day. I would like. It might be interesting to hear you say those things to Rodney Mack and Jazz maybe on the show sometime.
First of all, if you ever know me, I'll say anything to anybody. I've never shut up to anything anybody says. So, I can tell you, I've been and talked to a lot of great old time wrestlers, and they've used the terms properly, and they say they hate it. It's exactly like using the word ignorant. Ignorant means uneducated into a certain statement, but a lot of people with total ignorance to the use of the word consider it to be rude or disrespectful, and that's not what ignorant means. Just because a bunch of people say things and do things stupid doesn't make it right. A bunch of people,
Well, I mean,
love to watch
you could use that same terminology like with the word mark.
Mark
you
used
could
to be
say you could just say like a person could be one and not even realize it.
That's very true. A mark used to be in the old carnival days. They would put a mark on you that meant you were a sucker. That meant they believed they could take all your money. That's what the mark was. They marked you for being a sucker. It meant they were taking your money away. That's really what a mark is.
And then we turned the term in the 90s and we called it a smart mark, which is the mark that doesn't know they're a mark.
Yeah, that's the biggest oxymoron there is.
So let's move on because the show is
What show?
It's supposed to be a 2-hour podcast, and now we've been and not that I mind, but we've spent the last 15 minutes talking about Cesaro and work rate, and we're supposed to be talking about power. So I'm gonna use my executive producer privilege and move us onto the NWA Power, and hopefully DK will jump back on here momentarily. But this was the first episode of Power Trip. Now, this is one of the premier live events that they film at a live taping, and we're seeing the fruits of that show this week here on Power. And so this week we're going to have Camille versus Taryn Terrell in the main event. We have Colby Carino versus Rhett Titus in a 2 out of 3 falls, and of course we have a Jax Dane match. And we also have Chelsea Green versus Kenzie Page, and I think this was a lot of fun. Contrary to what we were talking about earlier with NWA USA and how it seemed like the show the wheels fell off that show, much like our show where the wheels just fell off. Power seems like with this Power Trip, it kind of reinvigorated the show, and I felt like this was a fun show to talk about. So, I mean, I'm hoping DKM will join us back here in a moment. But Jaden, were you able to catch this episode of Power Trip?
No, but you know why it makes sense that it's better? Because it wasn't Billy Corgan and the NWA running it. It was a tried and true promotion just using the NWA name. I'm sure Kevin Douglas can take anything that and J. Cal and DK and myself, any one of us. It wasn't meant as an insult. It was meant as like saying any one of us could probably take the pieces and put something a lot better off than what the NWA is currently doing. So again, that doesn't surprise me because you got somebody tried and true is who is what's his name? Is that the guy?
Mayweather.
Yeah, Mayweather. The guy used to be Crimson, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Crimson.
He started off with the NWA Wild Side and then a lot of promotions around there and spent time working, I think, with
Bert Prentice and Mike Porter.
Old school wrestlers. He knows what to do, and maybe he should be the one booking the NWA.
I think I agree with you, Jaden, because it's like I think if any of us were trying to book the show, the goal would be to try to like have a successful show that entertains the fans and actually can make some money. And it really doesn't seem like that's the goal right now. It really feels like it would be cool if, or I think it would be cool if I've always wanted to see blank kind of scenarios a lot. And this show seemed like it was run much more like a professional wrestling show.
Remember we talked about the word mark and how it's to separate for money? That's exactly what Billy Corgan's booking is. It's mark booking. It's a guy separating 100%. Himself from his money.
100%.
So, yeah. Let's get into the positives of the show, though, because I do feel like this was a good show. Kevin, you watched it, so we could talk about it. And when Mr. DKM comes back, which I think he's about to join us here in a minute, I'm sure he'll have some things he'd like to say too. The show kicks off with Jack Stane in the ring with one of the nicest vests I've ever seen. We should all be so lucky to wear a vest like that one. And I do feel like, sorry, I'm just arranging the chat there. I do feel like this promo was meant to get the show kicked off. Jax is quick to note that, the old Jack Stane is gone. The one that kisses babies, gone. The one that's a good guy, gone. And he killed him, and he's dead. And just like he killed Crimson the last time they were in Kentucky. Obviously, that's not the case because we'll see Crimson later in this series. Then the match starts with Jack Stane versus Eric Jackson, who I've never seen this guy before. Don't know much about him, but it's all violence and it's all Dane. Velvet Sky mentions that Jack Stane still has a championship title opportunity, where Joe Galley also presents the fact that Velvet Sky also has that, which also means that Colby Corino still has a shot at a championship and that the Pope has a shot at one of the championships. So just that's nice to know that the championship series are still in play. It didn't kind of get written out of the storyline. But Jax absolutely destroys Jackson and finishes him off with a head-removing lariat that would have made either one of the Steiner brothers proud. Jax didn't even take off his coat. He wrestled with the thing on. Cuts another promo after the match saying that after the Crockett Cup 2022, everyone will be talking about Dane. Kevin, what were your thoughts on this one?
I thought it was a pretty good match. The promo was pretty good. I could have done without the Yacees and the Tonights. But, other than that, promo was good. Match was pretty good. I like the guy that he wrestled too. I felt like there was probably a lot there that could be worked with on him. Might be a match between him and PJ Hawks might be a pretty good match.
Yeah,
I think that would be a fun matchup to see. So it was a cool match. I enjoyed it. It was nice to see some fresh talent, and also, hey, it's also good. It's also good to see Jack Stane in some action. And again, it was a sound match, and it got the point across.
And then DK, what were your thoughts? You're muted, so make sure you unmute yourself.
Greetings.
Welcome back.
Maybe. For those of you that absolutely positively must know, I did not leave because I didn't want to listen to Kevin. Hell, 75% of that was work on my part. I don't know about Kevin's. I left because I had to get some medications taken, and then I had to pee. So, now that we've set the record straight on that.
Full transparency.
With a little transparency here. And my phone's acting up. Here was the thing on my part. I didn't like his promo as much as I've liked a lot of his recent promos. I don't know, something was just lacking to me. I did enjoy the match, other than the fact he didn't take his vest off.
I liked it because of that.
Well, it looks cool, but it's just one of my nitpicks.
Sure.
But I thought it was a good Jack Stane match. I thought the guy looked well. And I'd like to see some more of him, and maybe, like Kevin said, PJ Hawk or some of the juniors. And I do like the way that, Dane was always in control. He always dominated the match. Even when the other guy was getting in his offense, what little he did, it was, you never doubted that, Dane was in control. It was what was needed. Dane needs to be put over in a monster way, and I thought they did it. Kevin, are you chasing flies or?
Oh no, my dog is trying to roll around on on the thing that my laptop is posted up on. So it was causing it to like look like I was having an earthquake over here.
I kind of thought that was what was going on.
Yeah, she was excited because my wife gets home. So yeah, now she's just staring at the hallway, waiting for her to walk down the hallway. So we've calmed down over here.
So let's get to the next match. Chelsea Green, who was supposed to take on Kylie Rae, and of course, Kylie Rae, this is the second time that she's missed one of these Premier Live events. This one, she had some health issues, so she wasn't able to compete. So Kenzie Page came in her place. And I'm going to be honest, Kenzie Page is starting to grow on me as a performer in the NWA. When I saw her challenging against Camille, I thought, man, she doesn't belong in the ring with Camille. But over the last couple of weeks, she's been having this feud with Natalia Markova. Her in-ring shape, I know she's a young lady. I'm not trying to set up unrealistic expectations, but she's looking very fit while she's out there. And I'm not trying to dogpile on her before, but you could see that she's taken a more serious approach in her fitness, and her matches have improved quite a bit. And I thought last week it was because of the match with Natalia Markova, where I thought, wow, she looked really good in that match, but she looked really good in this match as well. Almost as much like she belongs in the ring with somebody as talented as Chelsea Green. And so this was like I said, this was a pretty fun match. It was a pretty back and forth. Green was announced as the hot mess, but she really didn't have that gimmick. She was just Chelsea Green. There was right in the beginning, there was an exchanges of pins that was very reminiscent of WrestleMania 3 with Macho Man Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat. And the fact that they did that so early in the match, that could have blown out an athlete who wasn't prepared. But both of them, with the high intensity in this match, kept it going. I was really impressed with both of them, but specifically Kenzie Page. She took the loss, but I think this is the first time that, or the second time that she's really stood out to me. And I was really impressed with her. She looked like she belonged in the ring. DK, what did you think about this one?
He liked it so much he ran away.
Oh.
He liked it so much he was kicking the dog out so that he could talk. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you something I did not know, or if I did, I had 100% forgotten. I did not realize that Kenzie Page was like 19.
Yeah.
And just about to turn 20, which would explain why she probably looked so bad in the Camille matches. Because she legitimately was not ready for them. But I do think she's been given a chance to work with some, veterans. And again, with Chelsea Green, you got someone who can probably lead her through to a good match. And so I enjoyed it. I mean, was it my favorite match on the card? No, but, I thought it was good for a second TV match. And I thought Kenzie Page looked in better shape, and I thought she'd look better in the ring. So, Kevin, what did you see?
So, wait a minute. I was actually – okay, this was the Kenzie Page that wrestled Camille. This was the girl that wrestled Camille.
Twice.
Wow, man. Wow. She has improved, like –
a lot.
Almost, like, unbelievably. Like, I almost didn't recognize her. Because I'm like, wait – she's the one with the pink hair.
Yeah.
I mean, she looks like she's lost some weight. I don't know if she has, but she looks like she's lost weight. I didn't like in my mind. I'm like, I know this name, but she just didn't look familiar to me. And I guess it's because she's really made like you guys. You remember when I used to sit back early on when we were doing this, and I was like, oh come on guys, you got to be in shape, and you got to look at yourself from show to show and show improve. Like this shows you right here, like it can be done. Remember when I talked about Chris Adonis, and I was like, man, his condition is just off. And then he shows up to that one pay-per-view looking like just paper thin skin, just ripped, like, so you can tell how serious someone's taking something by certain things. And like, I didn't even know it was her. Like, honestly, I was like, this is not the same girl that I remember watching wrestle Camille and going, oh, she doesn't belong. She shouldn't be in these matches. Just like kind of what you were saying, Jay. That part alone, like, impresses me. And I really did. I mean, you guys know I like Chelsea Green. I've liked Chelsea Green pretty much from the get go. You also know I don't like the hot mess thing because she doesn't need it. Like Chelsea Green, Chelsea Green is good enough. Like I think she is probably the most underrated female wrestler probably out there. Period. Right now, because and not to like rekindle any kind of anything of our talk earlier, but like she has star power. Like she looks and feels like a big league wrestler. And not only that, but like in the ring, like she has great timing. She just has a lot going for her. So this, for me, I was like, wow, this was really one of the best matches I've seen in a while on NWA programming. Girl, female or male, doesn't matter. I would really like this match. I would say it's one of my favorite matches on NWA programming really all year so far, like up to this point. We had a finish too, like go figure, like a real finish. We had some false finishes. There was a few sloppy points of the match, but I'm actually okay with a little bit of sloppiness when you've had a match that's been 90% clean, 90% crisp, and done well. That's the point at which, okay, yeah, here and there, at least it wasn't the finish. So no, I enjoyed it. Like probably the best match we'll talk about as far as my opinion on the show for this week.
Did you know that Paige was so young?
I had no idea. It's so funny to me because the name rung a bell, but I didn't even realize this was the same girl. Like she looks like she's lost. Like I would be willing to bet 25, 30 pounds.
Here's a perfect example of somebody working at different places and against different talent and using into her ability. You can only get, I don't care how much you practice. Practice is great, training is great, but doing everything in the ring is the best trainer and the best teacher you can get. And she's been working all of the dark and elevation against the various talents in AEW. I believe she was doing some Impact stuff as enhancement stuff. And because of her NWA exposure, because of her AEW exposure, and because of her Impact exposure, she was getting a lot of bookings. So she had a lot of chance to practice her craft and get better. And I think it showed not only in her improved physique, as you keep hearing about, like how she's definitely taken it a lot more seriously and been in the gym or doing cardio or something, but her in-ring skills have improved just again from working so many different people and learning so much stuff. And I think also one of the most underrated things people don't realize is how hard it is to actually work TV to a TV camera to a TV crowd. Being in those environments with Impact and with AEW and then with the NWA too, it's gave her a lot of chance to learn how to do that and how to position herself properly and put herself in the best looking light.
And just to throw it out here, in the year of 2022, she's already had 4 matches, which I know doesn't sound like a whole lot, but for a lot of these folks who are wrestling just on the weekends, I mean that's not bad. And again, she's wrestled against Ruby Soho. She's been in the ring with Chelsea Green. She was in the ring with Kiera Hogan, Christy Jane, Genocide. Earlier or late last year, she had the series of matches with Natalia Markova. She's been in the ring with a lot of very talented individuals, and it's resonated. She's gotten better, and I think that's pretty awesome. And we'll leave it at that as we jump on to the next match, if that's okay with everybody. Let me look at the camera. Is everyone okay with that? Cool, we're good. Next up, we have Colby Corino and Rhett Titus. Now, I know that Kevin is not a huge Colby Corino fan, but this match might have been his best effort in the NWA. And I know Jaden, who is I don't want to say you're a close personal friend of Rhett Titus, but you're quite familiar with him as an athlete. This was one of his best matches in the NWA, and his only other match was against Austin Aries. So I heard that this match meant a lot for the NWA. And Jaden, I think you said once before that this really encouraged the NWA to keep talking to Rhett Titus. Didn't you say something like that?
I hope this doesn't cost him anything, but they were so impressed with his match with Colby that they asked him to be on the next TV taping in March. So I think that's a good sign. Hopefully they do something with him, because Rhett's really talented. I just wish Rhett wasn't so vegan, because it makes him kind of too thin in his physique. He needs a little red meat in there, I think, a little bit. but he's so good in the ring. He's learned from everybody in Ring of Honor, all the trainers, all the wrestlers. He's been in the ring with all the good ones and all the medium ones and all the great ones. He's learned from working with everybody from old school veterans to the hottest free agents. He's just so talented, and I don't think anybody really gives him a chance. And I was so happy when Ring of Honor finally put the television title on him, because they've given him the tag belt in the past, but the tag belts, unless you were Briscoe or back when they were really the tag belts were the major championship in the Ring of Honor, they haven't really been the go-to end-all be-all in the Ring of Honor promotion. But the TV title was an elevation for a long time, for taking somebody from the mid-card and moving them up. And I was so happy when they did it. Of course, it killed the company. But I think that finally maybe somebody can see what Rhett Titus can do, and maybe we can start seeing him being used properly and in a way to draw money.
So this was, again, a 2 out of 3 falls match, very hard-hitting. Both men were working that lower back, both of them just pulling out all the stops. It looked like Carino's focus was, trying to really take out that back. And we see later in the show where he was applying some submission holds. Rhett Titus connects with a drop kick that nearly took off Colby's head. That got him the first fall. The second fall, Carino was able to be a lot more aggressive and stole the victory by putting his arm around the rope in a roll-up. And then in the last match, as they're going back and forth, it was a low blow that the referee missed that set up a roaring elbow from Colby Carino to get the victory. I really like this match. I'm not a huge fan of 2 out of 3 falls matches unless there's a title on the line, but I thought this was pretty good. It might have been my favorite match on the show. DK, we'll go to Kevin. Kevin, what'd you think? DK, what did you think?
It wasn't my favorite match. I like the girls match a lot more. I do like 2 out of 3 falls matches, though. I think the one thing me and DK both can probably always agree on is we like singles matches better than every other kind of match. And if I like one singles match, why not have a couple of them right there in a row? So I don't mind 2 out of 3 falls matches. I agree with you, Jay, that having something on the line would be nice. This would have been a nice match for like a number 1 contender match, more so than maybe the match we talked about earlier. But, it was a good match, though. I'm not like I don't ever want to take anything away from guys that go out there and really just lay it on the line. And both guys, I still am not a big Colby Carino fan. I still really didn't like a whole lot of what he did in the ring in this match. I didn't. And again, I'm just speaking on terms of just, a lot of pins ending up in the ropes, a lot of that weren't supposed to. I understand that sometimes you do that on purpose, but when you're going to use those things, you could really like drag it out a little bit. There's just certain things about it I just didn't really like that much. I mean, Rhett Titus is in like super duper shape. The guy looks fantastic. Just there was a lot of moves in this match. Not quite enough selling, not quite enough storytelling for me. But, again, just holding your back is really not selling. Harley Race would say something along the lines of, if you get body slammed, doesn't it hurt? Yeah, it hurts. He said, well, what do you think the front row fan would feel like if they got body slammed? And I would be like, and it would be horrible, like they would feel like they're going to die. And he's like, well, that's what you want them to feel when you're selling. You want them to feel it like they would feel it, not how you would feel it, because you're the wrestler, So again, I just felt like there was a little bit underselling in some of the match, it was missing a few things. It wasn't a bad match at all, though. It was missing a few things in there for me.
DK, your thoughts?
Well, like Kevin, I'm not the biggest Colby Carino fan either, but I do agree this is probably the best he's looked in an NWA ring. So I haven't seen him elsewhere. I do have a quick question for Kevin, though, when he's talking about Harley Race and, how you sell it. but correct me if I'm wrong, but Harley Race was also against overselling moves, right? I mean,
100%. Yeah.
He wanted to look like it was real, so he didn't want you to like pop right up, and he also didn't want you to flop around like you've just been shot. Am I correct in that?
100%. Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost as if it's almost you want, and like that was something that's something that like DK, to piggyback on that. That's something I feel like a lot of wrestlers these days don't understand, like how to sell like certain things the right way. And a lot of times that, overselling can be just as bad as underselling, but both make wrestling look unbelievable. You oversell a move, people like, oh, come on, like that didn't hurt. That couldn't have hurt that bad. And then underselling, it's like, well, I mean, he just dropped him off a ladder. Like now he's back up running around. So it couldn't have been real, that kind of thing. So I 100% yes, both, either or. We never talked about it, but I would be willing to bet that was something that he wouldn't be a big fan of.
For some reason, I think I'd heard that before, but it actually may have been in a conversation with you. But anyway, getting back to the match, it probably edged out the women's match for me, but not by a whole lot. I enjoyed Rhett Titus more than I enjoyed Colby Corino, but I did acknowledge also, like Kevin said, the selling wasn't maintained. I guess that's the word I'll use. They would sell for the moment, and then you would kind of like forget that, somebody had just jumped on their back. Which I'm sure.
May I ask a question for the guys who've seen it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Was the match long overall for a 2 out of 3 fall match, or was it kind of quick?
It was about right. Like it wasn't
15
long,
minutes. I laughed because the ref right towards the end of the match says really, really loud to both of the wrestlers, and I picked it up on camera. 1 minute, guys.
I hate when I can hear the ref call.
That was like at the 14-minute mark.
I asked because a lot of times wrestlers, when they know they have a 2 out of 3 fall match and they have a limited amount of time, they have a tendency to rush more, and it's a failure of today's wrestling. I think they don't think they need to sell as long because they have to get all the stuff in that they need to get in, and that's why I absolutely hate the mentality of having to get your shit in. But I think that's why I was thinking maybe that's why there was a lack of selling, because I've seen Rhett do selling in the past and do it well. But maybe whoever agented the match, if they had somebody told them what to do, they may have told them to keep it up quick and keep it up so the fans stayed into it. Sometimes it's not the wrestlers, sometimes it's the people in there, even though the wrestlers should take charge. They're the ones that out there. They should be the ones that make it look as best as possible.
I'm going to acknowledge that was a possibility. I mean, when watching it, I didn't think long or short, honestly. I mean, it's not like sometimes where, especially in the second fall, it'll be 2 minutes. So overall, I just kind of thought, overall, I enjoyed the match. Overall, I thought it was some good in-ring work. Both of them could have sold better. Colby probably needs to be a little bit smoother with some of his moves. Still not sold on him. Still kind of convinced he's going to be the one that ends up with the junior heavyweight title. And I don't really have that much more to say about the match, other than I don't mind 2 out of 3 fall matches, but it would have been nice if there had been a reason it was a 2 out of 3 falls match.
Right.
And to me, that was the part that was lacking. Hey, Rhett won 1, Colby won 1. Now we're going to decide it, and it's going to be 2 out of 3 falls.
And it wasn't like there was. It wasn't like there was this huge animosity between the two. Like we said, it wasn't for a title. It wasn't for a number 1 contender spot. It was just like, hey, we got these two really, we have these 2 performers. We're just going to throw them out there and let them see what they can do 2 out of 3 falls. There wasn't a lot of rhyme and reason to it. And, had it been for the Ring of Honor TV title, or had it been for being seated in the Crockett Cup or something, it would have been more meaningful. And I just feel like that was a missed opportunity.
Or the television main event.
Yeah.
Back on the Championship Sports episode of World Class, which was their more cheaply produced episode that aired on Saturday nights here in Dallas-Fort Worth. I'm sure Kevin remembers. But, there were two gimmicks for the thing. The second match was always the TV title match. And then it was a 2-hour show. So at the top of the second hour was typically the television main event. And television main event was always 2 out of 3 falls. And it was, did it need to be? Probably not. But it was that gimmick that made it special for the television show.
Right.
And so, I mean, if this was a gimmick they did where they always had 1 2 out of 3 fall match on the show, then you go, oh, okay. That's something that sets them apart, something that makes them unique. But for just to kind of be there, then I don't know.
Well, then let's get into real quick, Ron asked me a question. I'll answer it, and then we'll get into the main event. Ron says, hey, J-Cal, was there a reason for Scorpio Sky, Austin Aries best of 5 series other than just finding out who was the best? Man, I have to go back in the time machine because I don't really remember. But, yeah, it was the best. I thought it was the best of 7 series. And I think it was just they kept one-upping each other, and they wanted to see who was the best in that feud. But that was a long time ago, and I don't really have a better answer for you than that, Ron. But going to the main event was our Women's World Champion, the holder of the Burke, Camille, defending against somebody who I actually really enjoy her managerial role within the company, and that's Taryn Terrell. Now, Taryn Terrell is a former Knockouts champion for Impact, and I think she's been hurt. No one's confirmed this for me. I don't know for certain, but I think she has not been actively wrestling because I think she's been injured. And I still don't really agree with her getting a title match against Camille, especially because she's done nothing in the NWA to earn it. But, I also don't need to see Melina versus Camille again. And I also don't need to see, Kenzie Page getting another shot at Camille. With all due respect to Kenzie Page, it's just something different was set for the table. So I think it was for that reason, it was a bit refreshing. Of course, Taryn Terrell's so good at being the heel that she literally turned Camille babyface in the match. Taryn Terrell's introduction alone was enough to get Camille over as a face. It was mostly just Camille really kind of throwing Taryn Terrell around the ring. Taryn's selling was impeccable. Their funny spot where she kept going to the bottle to drink and ended up spraying Camille with some mist, which helped her get some offense in. But this match was all Camille, very dominant and very powerful. And, the kind of match that Camille should have against Taryn Terrell. Real quick, DK, what were your thoughts on this one?
Well,
You disagree?
I like Taryn Terrell. I like a majority of what you said. I mean, I don't disagree with it. The water cup thing was just stupid booking. The ref's not going to stop Camille from going after Taryn Terrell to hand her a cup of water so that Taryn Terrell can get a drink. And then just letting her repeatedly go there, into the corner and get a drink. Just, no, that doesn't happen. The other thing is not only was Taryn Terrell a Knockouts champion, I don't like that. Not only was she a TNA Women's champion, she actually held the title for a long time, over 279 days. So that's got to be one of their longer reigns. And unfortunately, now I've heard concussion, that she had suffered a concussion, and that was basically part of the reason she wasn't wrestling much anymore. Again, that's not confirmed. I don't think she's ever said it. I don't think anything's ever been officially said. Even when she does wrestle, she doesn't wrestle a lot. So you kind of had to take this match as what it was, which was you wanted to see Camille beat up Taryn Terrell, and she did mostly, and then she won the match. So, I mean, in that sense, like you said, it wasn't Kinsey Page, it wasn't some of the others that she's already beaten. So, sure, it was nice. It was nice to see, but this version of wrestler Taryn Terrell, unfortunately, doesn't put in what you would call a classic match.
Right.
I don't know. Kevin, did you have thoughts?
Yeah,
did you watch it?
I watched it. I watched it because I was interested. Like I'm gonna kind of go along with what I think what both of you guys are kind of trying to say is that we like Taryn Terrell with the show. She's a really good addition to the NWA roster, in the same vein as maybe like a Mae Valentine is. It's funny, like you'd think they'd get like some good like male ancillary characters, but right now it seems like the female ancillary characters are the better ones. Because like Austin Idol doesn't really help the show, Danny Deals doesn't really help the show, the lawyer guy doesn't really help the show. Sinister Minister's not too bad. But I like her as like the role that she's been playing. Her wrestling for the title is a little bit of a head scratcher. Probably just one of those things where they were trying to like have a decent like a name to wrestle Camille at their show, which was a kind of a big show for them, I think. Yeah, the antics and all that weren't very good, and you know, you guys know I'm a fan of Camille. I think she's got a lot of talent, but I really feel like she's taken some pretty heavy steps backwards in the ring, just as a whole. Like, and I'm not going to belabor that point, but there's a list of things that have gotten worse for her, as far as I'm concerned. That, you know, not only was it not the best version of Taryn Terrell, but it wasn't the best version of Camille either. And then you put that along with a match that really wasn't serious. It didn't take itself seriously really at all, for a world title match and a main event. It just, you know, it wasn't even the best women's match on the show, which is the world title match. So it's like kind of a letdown. It was a main event in name, but not a main event in action.
Jaden, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I didn't see the match, so I can't give you anything about the work rate. Listening to you guys, apparently, Taryn Terrell's a good manager. So what they probably should have done is, for the last couple of months, build up somebody like Genocide, and then Camille says something like, "Well, you know, you've already had a match, so if you want a championship match, rematch. If I win, I get 5 minutes with Taryn Terrell, and then have her wrestle and beat her up as a manager instead, maybe." That way you get the potential of seeing Taryn Terrell, who people want to hopefully get her see her ass kicked. And then that's the push. Either the Genocide is the new champion, or Camille gets her hands on Taryn Terrell and book it as that. And that way she also still gets a win over a former 200 and something day knockouts champion who's injured with a concussion or whatever she's injured with.
Right.
So that's how I would have done it. Honestly, though, I wish that what's her name? Crap, I just forgot her name. Storm. Just left the WWE from Australia. Tony Storm. Yeah, Tony Storm. I wish she was still in the country, because I've seen her work against women bigger than her, and she does it very, very, very well. What I think what Camille needs right now is to be in the ring with some of the best wrestlers that can get the best out of her. I don't think the current wrestling against Melina, despite the name power, or Taryn Terrell or wherever she's been in recently, has done her any favors in getting her to be considered a top woman wrestler.
So with that being said, we know that there's still 2 more episodes of the Power Trip. They're breaking it into 3 total shows. There's still the I Quit match. There's still the national title. There's the big 4-man tag match. So there's still a lot more wrestling to be seen. Of course, the Cordona versus Trevor Murdoch. They'll probably hold that off until the final episode. So we'll see that, and we'll see it probably in the next 2 weeks or so. But that's going to wrap it for us, guys, because we went 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I can't stomach this any longer. I love these guys, but man, that's too much talking. So, Jaden, plug something. Tell us what's going on, what you're doing, and then everyone else can sound off, and then we'll take off.
Well, just in case you didn't get the news, the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators event is not happening this weekend. The Max Fit Sports Center double booked it. They used the excuse of there was no written contract, even though there's never needed to be a written contract. And also in New Jersey, verbal contracts are binding. So if there was a lawyer involved, it could have happened, but whatever. Anyway, so there's not going to happen this weekend. It's being pushed back to Saturday night, April 23rd at the said Max Fit Sports Center. Now that there's a written contract done to make sure and things are set up. The main event is still going to be Breaker Morant, the champion who never lost, against Ray Jazz, everybody's favorite wrestler, at least in the Alliance guys. I'm not sure if Kevin likes him, though. Ever seen him, Kev?
I have not, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, check him out. He's an amateur wrestling superstar and absolutely spectacular in the ring, and much better than anybody's given him any credit for, except for us, the Alliance guys. And he's taking on Breaker Morant for the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Heavyweight Championship. There's going to be, I think, 8 matches scheduled. I don't know the entire card yet because I think most of the matches are being pushed over, but not all of them. So once more's Dr. Zirconium promotes more, I'll make sure to promote it. But get your tickets. They're going to be $20. I also heard that there's a potential from my old high school, another building in Glassboro, potentially having a dog event. I myself and Dr. Zirconium went this past Wednesday to try to get that ball in the motion. So hopefully that happens too. And once I let you know if that's going to happen, I'll make sure I break it here first on the Alliance guys. Thank you guys for having me. I'm going to leave while the rest of you keep talking. Have a good night, man.
Have a good night, Jade. Thanks again. Kevin, how can folks follow you on the socials? Plug something.
Well, I put my little name thing down there so you don't have to spell it. So if you look down there, look at that. See it right there? Kevin Lee Frazier. Right there.
Right there.
You can find me right there.
Right there.
At Twitter or at the Instagram. Right there. If you want to check out some Kevin Douglas wrestling, just go to Kevin Douglas Wrestling on your Google, and check out the videos. Plenty of stuff on there if you want to see some of the wrestling stuff. Just so you can know, I really might know a little bit about what work rate is, and that's all I'm going to say.
All right. DK, I know you have you're going to be part of a big event that's happening WrestleMania weekend. Do you want to plug that real quick?
Yep. Don't miss the double shootout for IHW and IHWE. And for the IHWE, we already have scheduled the opportunity to fill the new IHWE Excellence Championship. And we'll also be crowning the new Queen of the Ring, a title that was held by Christy James at one point, which I know a lot of people around here are fans of her.
Big fan.
Leva Bates actually once challenged for that title, as well as Ember Moon, back when she was wrestling here as Athena. So it's a title that's got a little bit of history to it. So be prepared for that. There will also be a big 10-man match that will mix a few of the IHW and IHWE wrestlers. And most importantly, Tim Storm will be lacing up his boots to be part of that 10-man match. So
nice.
Tim, by his own admission, he's 57, 58, somewhere up in through there. He hasn't got many matches left in him. And this could be probably one of the last opportunities in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to see him in the ring. And if you want to follow me on social media, it's Twitter at DKMFWTX.
Guys, I do genuinely thank you for being here with us. I do genuinely appreciate all 883 subscribers. As soon as we hit that 1,000 mark, man, we're going to have some fun. But until then, we'll see y'all at the matches. You have a good night now. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.